Hello, everyone, and welcome to Great Train Layouts Live. I'm your host, Nick Ozerak, and I appreciate you for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. That's right, we now have a name for the live broadcast because it was way too confusing trying to refer to edited episodes versus these live streams. So, Great Train Layouts Live is where we are building track plans in Trains with a Z Railroad Simulator 19 to be able to see and understand what makes these plans work, especially where there's operations in mind, or as we'll explore with tonight's plan, scenery in mind. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hi, Audie. Hi, Rudy. Dave, John, Greg. Good to see all of you guys tuning in. And I'm excited to get into today's project because today we are looking at a layout that has been started, but I've been commissioned to help make the scenery, plan out the scenery. This is the Conrail P&L branch. As you can see, a proto-freelance HO scale layout modeled by Rudy Garbley and Carolyn Hoffman. This is a fictional Conrail branch line set in the 80s, 90s, in east central Pennsylvania. And so Rudy asked if I would be willing to help him to visualize the scenery with this. But thanks for the super chat, Pacific Productions. Yes, if you enjoy what you're watching tonight, we now have YouTube monetization here on this channel. So any small tips that you are able to contribute, I really appreciate it. So thank you very much for that, Pacific Productions. So Rudy commissioned me to visualize the scenery because he and his wife have actually laid out the track for this. So this actually exists in their basement as far as the track is concerned. So this is a fun one to play with because essentially the track is a fixed point. There's no playing around with the configuration like we did with the Commonwealth. We have to say this is the track that is, which it's a good plan. So we don't need to be messy with it. But what we're looking at specifically is how to visualize what there is to play with. Since this is freelance, there's a lot of room for creativity. And that's the fun we're going to have today. Hi, Alan and Sherilyn. Glad that you can join us from New Zealand. So let's have a little bit of a look at what the plan is. And actually, Rudy joins us in the chat today. So if I screw things up, Rudy is there to correct me, as well as to offer his feedback on what he's seen that we create. So the way this is, as you can tell, the focus of this plan is switching. This is all about switch jobs. You've got this staging yard in the west end of the map. We'll go cardinal directions that way. The west end of the map, we've got Scotland Yard. And yes, that is its name, is Scotland Yard. With the main line and a yard lead, allowing for switching within the staging yard itself. Then we get into the town of Linglestown, the L in P&L. And you can see I've already started doing work on this scenically. I'm going to talk more about my thought process with how I've come up with this plan here. We have the cement plant here, which I'm going to have to refer to my notes, or Rudy might throw it up in the comments what the name of the cement plant is. There's a lot of pun names associated with these industries. So we have this cement plant, this warehouse. Then we get into this kind of industry row here where we've got a brewery. We've got this grain elevator, aka King of Grain. A lot of them puns are based on music, so puns of songs or band names. So we've got some of the basic buildings laid out, and we'll play around more with this a bit. This is going to be what I'm going to be experimenting with tonight. Is obviously this is very it's very industry, it's very urban. So I'm going to try to be doing scenes, but not getting too bogged down in the having to shop and find assets that fit what we're going for. Big focus that I want to pay attention to tonight is this curve here, because as you can tell, there's a lot of emphasis on these let's say 4 distinct switching areas. You've got staging, you have the town of Linglestown, the cement plant warehouse, and this row of industries here. So there's a lot of these kind of concentrated areas. So I want to play around with some of the in-between sections, because I feel like since there isn't a lot of travel time, a lot of the operations are switching based, it's worth making the most of those gaps to give what sense of distance we can. So, looking at where we've already started doing some scenery here, Linglestown. This is I thought this was going to be the most challenging piece to realize visually, but it actually came together quite nicely, and I'm happy with it. And the reason for that is because, as you can see from the plan, this is, or maybe you can't tell because I cropped the plan in, but this area around here is actually accessible by, there's walkway around there. This isn't against the wall. So what that means is that we have this interesting situation where we've got this really wide peninsula, which ordinarily you might not do if this was right up against the wall, because you wouldn't be able to reach these industries back here. But because you can walk around this, you can reach both sides no problem, but then you have this big space in the middle. And what to do with such a big space, this is not something that I find in a lot of track plans, because usually they're against the wall, and so you're talking like a 2-foot margin. So I came up with the idea that if this is Linglestown, we should feel like we're close to downtown, maybe not quite in downtown, but close to it. And why not have a park, even with a little gazebo? It just felt like the type of thing that it's different, because you don't need to be able to access any track or anything in the center of this. So once the scenery's in place, you're never going to need to reach in there, or hardly ever, maybe dusting off cobwebs occasionally. But the point is that it's a unique scenic feature that I think is going to make Rudy's layout stand out when people come to visit it. And we have some neat industries here too. We've got the feed store, the beer distributor, there's a coal dealer as well. This one I remember. This is The News, and the editor of The News is Huey Lewis. I think that one, that pun joke makes itself a bit more apparent. So, oh, hi Carolyn, glad that you could join us as well. Yeah, this is, I think it's just like, there's so much detailing fun that we could have. And I don't know that we're going to get into the detailing here, because that's a lot of me having to go through and find assets. But you could put people, you could put sidewalks and little flower beds. I mean, there's a ton of detail that you can stick in there. And it's worth it, because it's going to be front and center. When you look at the floor as a whole, people are coming down the staircase this way into the space. So it's not going to be the opening scene as it might otherwise be, but when you're looking at it from a sort of a magazine like overview angle, I feel like this is the angle that you're going to see it at. And so it makes it worth that foreground scene having some special elements to it. So the first thing I think I want to explore with you guys, because part of the benefit of having this live stream is I love having your input with regards to these builds and experimenting with what we can do creatively, is we're going to start with Scotland Yard and the transition between Scotland Yard and the town of Linglestown. So this is our first kind of sense of we're going from one place to another, and let's work with that distance. So if you guys see things where you're like, I've got ideas, could you try this, could you try that, then you're watching live, throw them in the comments, because that's part of the beauty of this show, is we can try different things out. That's the benefit of what I'm calling pre-visualization. 3D pre-visualization, this concept that you can see what you're going to do with the layout before you actually have to commit to that by buying the kits or putting down the plaster. So, this is the first case of we get to an interesting decision, which is how to separate Scotland Yard from the town of Linglestown. Now, I was experimenting with walls here. So there's going to be this wall against the cement plant no matter what. That's going to be a constant because the staircase is there. So that's a fixed point. But the question is, do we use a full-blown divider between the town of Linglestown and the yard lead? Or do we do it scenically? I think we're going to try a little bit of each. And the reason, and here's why the number one piece of this that's kind of messing with my mind, but I like it. It's a good messing with the mind. And I think that Rudy's right to have designed it in the way, Rudy and Carolyn are right to have designed it in the way they have. So if we take down the walls for a moment, you see here, we've got this track, which is a yard lead. We've got this track, which is a bakery siding. Because if you were looking at it from a kind of sky view, you might say, well, why don't you just combine the yard lead with the bakery track? But no, because A, they're functionally two very different things. This yard lead is so that you can have enough headroom to be making your switching moves in the yard without interfering what's going in and out on the main. And also because you're never going to run stuff through. They're scenically two different points. Yeah, you could, but they really, and you'd probably have cars at the bakery anyway. There's a number of reasons to keep these separate, but as you can see, they are within, pretending this was full-size scale, that's 20 feet within each other. I mean, those are really close to one another. So, I think what we'll try first, I have a feeling, as Rudy said in the chat, I think that we're probably going to end up putting the walls in, but we're going to start first with just, can we make it work with trees and so forth? Because there's no doubt in my mind, these need to be separate. And I think even if we do put in a wall, you're still going to have some type of forest or greenery backdrop. So it's worth putting trees in anyway. So we're going to try that as just a base element. And this yard lead, there's a support column here. I don't know if we'll be doing anything with that scenically. Like, you could disguise it as a building, but I think we'll just say that's painted blue and sky for the time being. Just tells us don't put anything in here. And then we also get into interesting questions about the backs of these buildings, because remember, this is going to be publicly viewable. Like, you're going to be able to walk into this space and see exactly this scene. So we do have to be mindful of how even this yard lead is interacting with these buildings. Let's get some trees up. Let's get some nice big, well, I was going to say elks, but then again, we did a lot of that with Commonwealth. Let's just start with the Sosnas. As you know, these are trees created by a European modeler, ergo why they have non-English names, but I'm so used to calling them by their European names. I don't even know what the English names are. I just have fun calling them Sosna and what else? Kashtan. So things like that. I want some darker stuff, so we'll probably go with the Erst trees. You guys are sticking around long enough watching this series. I know I'll have done something. If you're modeling at home and you start being like, oh, I need a darker tree, I need an Erst tree, or I need something that looks more like a Sosna. Tell me if you guys end up using the European names in your modeling, even though you don't have to. That would be highly amusing. Okay, we're gonna go with kind of the biggest trees we can go for height-wise, and see what that leaves us with, and we'll kind of rough that in. And then the edge of the layout comes to basically the edge of the bakery, so we're treating that as a hard limit. We can have some trees leading up to here. Could be interesting to forest in the support column so that like you're not seeing anything back there, but I think we'll just leave that now. Rudy, I'm going to start Bob Rossing the layout. Yep, trees are a great way to go. So this is where we're going to be playing around and seeing, can we get enough of a sense of division just with trees, or are we going to want that wall in there? And again, we would be using the trees anyway. Hope you guys are having a good night tonight. John Overman, is this HO scale? Yes, this is an HO scale track plan. In fact, if you go to look at the description of this video, you'll see the website for this, for Rudy and Carolyn's layout as a whole. It talks about the fictional history of the line. It's got the track plan in there, so you'll be able to see it. And of course, once this layout is complete and I've put the final touches on it, this is going to be publicly available for everybody to enjoy. And that'll probably be going up on the new website, which is still being constructed. I was really hoping it'd be done today, so I apologize that it's not. But we're working on the website for what makes this layout great and Great Train Layouts Live. Hopefully within a few weeks we'll be done. Okay, so that gives us a starting point of looking at, okay, this is just trees, and yeah, we could put undergrowth and so forth. And what do I think of this? And what do you think of this? So while you're typing in what you think of, do just trees work as a divider? Keep in mind, you won't see this. We'll put the walls temporarily just because, again, you're going to have this wall no matter what. Maybe I want to hide those walls. I'm going to temporarily delete that wall just so that we can kind of see what it looks like if we have one wall but not the other. Okay, so this is if we don't have walls. And it could, in my opinion, again, share yours, but in my opinion, it could work. There is something to be said for the glimpse that we get of the building. I think we're going to be doing hills and so forth here. We'll get to that in a bit. That's a bit more straightforward. But I just wanted to delve into one of the brain teasers first. So it works. Now, you do see the bakery. Do I think that's an issue? Not necessarily, because you're never following a train from the yard lead into Linglestown. You're still getting that sense of division. So your train, when you're following your train, well, and actually, if you're switching is when you're following the yard lead. If the train is leaving town, it's actually probably, you're following it visually along this back plane. And then it kind of dips through that gap there. Operationally, it is a little tricky, and there's no avoiding this. It's a little tricky how you're following it here, and then to rejoin it, you have to walk all the way around the peninsula and rejoin it here. How that works out in terms of operations, you know, remains to be seen in the long run. Oh, I forgot to delete one of the wall sections. You know, even just doing it with, I think just trees could work. The only downside of just trees is that it does make the buildings here a bit shallow. Because now you're seeing the buildings, but it's like there's no depth to the town for this section. If we put the wall back in, now there's a sense that, I mean, we're just using a generic sky, but you could put in another backdrop that suggests hills and so forth. So I'm going to say that it looks better with a backdrop, because I think that way you can convey more depth on the town side. I think from the side of from this side, it doesn't matter. Trees or no trees would work. but I'm gonna say walls are the way to go. Stephen Lesner says, I like the trees better. I'm in a wheelchair, so the walls would be confining for me. Interesting point. That's a good point, and that's why so much of it is based on feel, to what works for you. So that's an excellent point. Colin Conrail is making Conrail is based making a fictional Conrail in the 90s currently. Conrail lends itself really well to doing fictional branches and so forth. It was so large. Kevin, separational backdrops of things is actually kind of nice. We have that in several spots at my HO club. I think that, yeah, there's a time and a place where you want scenic dividers, even where it doesn't necessarily feel like it's an essential piece. There are advantages. And then, yeah, so Carolyn points out there should be a scene in this yard loop. So let's talk about that. So I think we've answered this. We might get back to super detailing this, but I feel like we're going to do maybe a little bit more jumping between locations, or at least let's start in Scotland Yard and we'll work our way out there. So we've got Scotland Yard here. It's a very straightforward staging arrangement. An easy initial question is, what do you do as a backdrop for here? You could set it as like middle of the nowhere, like very much on the outskirts of any town kind of yard. You could make it sort of pseudo-industrial park. Part of me wants to do a pseudo-industrial park, but I'm gonna resist that urge because I feel like we're gonna get so much industrial park in other places. Let's make this feel like it's in the middle of nowhere. Let's give it a little bit of contrast, because so much of the layout focuses on buildings and urban and town. This is our one chance to be away from that. So we're gonna use the minimum amount of buildings, like yard office, and that's about it. This isn't gonna fit perfectly, but I'm gonna use it as a placeholder for the time being, just because I know what it looks like. We're gonna put this in place just so we have something. Yeah, so something like this where it's like, and what else do you want to throw in there? I want to throw in some maybe slightly higher res trees. Will this work? No, those are too autumn. And yeah, that'll work okay. Actually, that might even look better than the other one. And I can custom fit it, which is advantageous. Oh, I like that. And let's see if I can delete the other one. It looks... Yeah, I'm satisfied with that as a backdrop. Yeah, I think that putting this yard in the middle of nowhere is the way to go. Oh, Kevin, yes. Hi from JR. Well, glad to have somebody from JR Jointed Rail tuning in tonight. We're going to see a little bit of Jointed Rail stock in action later when we get to the play session. In the play session, we've got something cool in store for that. We always have cool things in store, but I like my surprise. You guys know by now, I like my surprises. I like teasing things. Stick around, you're going to have a good time. So, here we've got the yard office. Let's see if we've got some simple yard office buildings. Just by searching yard office and seeing what comes up. And this is, again, there's so many realms you could go. So this is kind of steam era yard office. Probably too pristine for the Conrail era. I like it, but, you know, if this were based around my building preferences, we'd be constantly doing transition era stuff. So I'm going to try to vary it up a bit. I think this is more the era we're going for here. Obviously not fitting the exact footprint, but I think that's okay. We'll go maybe about like that and fit it to about there. Again, beauty is the Rudy and Carolyn have told me nothing's set in stone, literally or figuratively, scenically, so we get to have a lot of fun playing around with this stuff. Audie, glad to see you. I'll check out what you sent me and see if we can throw some of that in there too. Minimal buildings. Let's throw in a pickup truck or two. Let's see if 1980 comes up with anything. Don't want to get too hung up on this stage of things, but just to kind of give a little bit of a sense of where we're going, structure and scene-wise. I don't know where oh. Somebody's driving a Porsche to the Conrail office, because, you know, there's some reason for somebody to be driving a Porsche there. Let's see if I've got anything Chevy. Again, full disclaimer, I do not have loyalties as far as Chevy, Dodge, and Ford. So if you do, I am not in any way promoting favoritism of one type of vehicle over another. I have a lot of 50s Chevys. I don't see that. Oh, MO. Okay, here we go. Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is a Conrail thing. There we are. I like that. Okay. So we've got enough to start with. Now this is going to be interesting here. So we have this kind of gap where there's nothing in this inner area. So now, oh, darn it, I just realized I'm placing all these assets in the walls layer. So I love layers. I don't love when I forget which layer I'm on. So we'll throw that over. But we'll throw it out to you guys. We've got, maybe 6 inches worth of room here. We could just build that up to be a little bit of a hill. We could put some trees in there. What do you guys think we should put in this little opening here? Nothing super big or fancy. Trying to avoid buildings, although if you could sell me on any deal, we'll give it a play. And while you type your response, I am going to make sure that everything goes to the correct layer, which means I actually have to have the walls layer unlocked. And then we'll throw that back into the roots layer where it belongs. Because otherwise then it'll get really confusing when I go to preview things with alt walls and I go, why are my trucks and buildings disappearing? Okay, I think that's the main stuff. You should put some GP15-1 on the roster. I would if there was a good GP15-1 to use for Train Z, and I'm not sure that there is. I like it. It's a neat unit. Let's see. Yard debris, ties, etc. Honestly, a panel of track or two, some ties, maybe some spike cans, stuff like that. Yeah, let's play around with that, because we could say that the access road for the yard office is coming over, and we'll get rid of the... So we're locking this. We're getting off that layer so I don't accidentally add more stuff. We're going to hide this, because we don't need to see that for now. We're going to add dirt road. Coming in this way, and we're going to use one of the JR dirt roads. Brownstone. So coming in like this, goes over the yard lead. Or no, this is going over the main. Parallels the track for a bit, because why not? And then it curves off and disappears into the scenery. Yeah. Okay, that's a good start. And then ties and the like. Yeah, let's find some clutter we can throw here. So we've got some tie stacks we can just place around. And again, I might get into... that's more like if something was being laid down. I'll probably get into more super detailing stuff at another point. Maybe they're doing some tie replacement, so we'll throw up... We could throw up a big bundle there. Let's see what we've got in terms of rails. Just some loose, scattered rails that are just laying around. 30-inch rails. Maybe a bit too perfectly side by side, but if we're saying that they had time to neatly stack the ties, maybe they have time to organize the rails properly. We'll lay a couple of those as such. We should have a little bit of terrain manipulation. Like, just a little bit of hill, I think, would be a little bit of hill. Womp. Little bit of hill. A little bit of hill. Because I think it's especially this is another plan like Kootenai, where everything is already flat. There's not a single grade on this layout anywhere, which is not a problem. But it's to say that I think where you can find places to manipulate the terrain in between, you're good to go. Let's see. DJ, I like how everyone is Conrail yard, add garbage and junk and mow debris. Yep, that's what we have going on. And so maybe this specific area where the road is flat, but if we add just a little bit of hill around here, then it gives that impression that the yard had to be built into the scenery. So we're gonna go with that, I think, for now. And then a little bit along here. And again, you know, how this... Would you actually have to do this kind of manipulation with your own layout? Manipulation. Like, would you actually do this? I don't know. But for the sim, it looks right. I definitely want to put in a hill over here. Because this is... let's see. Is this... oh, this is an edge. So we actually don't have... We don't have that space to work with. Okay. Well then, while we're on the subject of terrain manipulation, I mean, I think that that's a good amount to play with, especially if you add clutter, and especially because you'll have plenty of cars moving in and out. I think that gives a good amount to work off of. We'll get to terrain painting in a moment. Let's talk about this. So, we don't have any sort of posts, no supports to worry about. We could do whatever we want here. Goody. Rudy, it's very important that there's an auger ripping my arms out of my shoulder sockets. Well, that sounds painful. So, you can model that. I don't have a trains asset for that. So we've got this main that's coming off here. We've got this yard lead. With a wide berth between the two. I'm inclined to put a hill here, because I feel like this is a location where we can have a distinct hill that's a hill. It doesn't have to be anything major, but just a little bit of separation to give a sense that whatever predecessor railroad built this yard, because obviously this was here before Conrail, that they had to build into the landscape. So having a couple of hills and just giving that sense that the track is built into something, I think it's going to be the way to go. Good to have a mixture of when your track is above, when your track's below. We're going to have some track below scenes later. But for here, I'm liking that as a start. I almost want to fit a field, but I feel like if the field's too close to the yard, and a field's too... No, I want to go trees on this one, I think. Let's place some trees in here and see what we come up with. Thin trees, because I think... Oh, we are on the wrong layer. But at least we locked it, so we're not going too far down the wrong direction of things. Thin trees here because you want to be able to see the train going in and out of the yard. Don't have to be able to see it perfectly, because any train that's going in and out of the yard, there's no switching to do for this part, so you're just watching it. But giving a sense that you're looking into the scene. We don't have any elevation difference to kind of delineate between the two, so I think just this idea of if you're having to look through trees and look into the scene, it's going to help make it a bit more distinct. It's going to make it a bit more distinct than if we're playing it off of just the same height, or if we did a valley. I mean, I'm almost inclined to try a valley, but I'm gonna stick to my guns. We're gonna stick with that, with the hills. Again, appreciate you guys tuning in tonight and supporting the show in general, because I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, so I'm glad you guys are tuning back in. If you're liking what you're seeing, I encourage you, please go check out my Patreon, which is patreon.com/theroundhouse. And for as little as $1 a month, you're going a long way to helping both these YouTube creations, which includes What Makes This Layout Great and Great Train Layouts Live, as well as the Roundhouse podcast, which also gets uploaded to the YouTube channel, but you can also find that on whatever apps you use to download podcasts. $5 a month, you are getting early access to episodes of What Makes This Layout Great and the Roundhouse podcast. $10, an exclusive monthly hangout with yours truly. And $25 a month, you're getting a photo print every year that you're subscribed to. But as soon as you sign up, you'll get one free photo print of mine. So patreon.com/theroundhouse, give it a look. And I appreciate those of you who are supporting the show there already. And as mentioned earlier, we have Super Chat. So if you just want to send a little tip, you can just comment here on YouTube. And I appreciate the support. So, trees. Yay, nay? I think yay. I'm liking how this looks. Especially, there's something to be said for this scene here. I think this could be a really cool scene when the power's coming out of Lindenberg and coming around the curve. This is a nice, and especially if you had some like an engine in the foreground here. I have to move my hands because I realize I gestured toward the screen. So if you have a foreground engine that's doing your switching and you've got a mainline train coming in, I think that's a pretty cool scene. I'm liking that separation thematically already. So we're going to add some more of these Sosnas, because the Sosnas, I love the leaf detail on these guys. I think they look really good like that. And so that way you're creating more of this separation. Since we don't have the elevation separation visually, there's something that's giving a sense of this is one region and this is another region. Okay, you know how clumsy people are with this stuff, but I feel like you would reach for that from the yard side, besides the whole tree side more so. Yes, if you needed to reach for cars here, I wouldn't do foreground trees, but because this should essentially just be trains going through, there shouldn't need to be a reason to reach for it. That said, also, if you keep your reach area free through this alley, I think you're okay that way. Be curious. So last week we did the Susquehanna in New York on What Makes This Layout Great. Be curious to know what you guys thought of that. Did you enjoy seeing a layout that is steam era, involves timetable train orders? Man, what a great layout. In real life, I've had the privilege of operating on Mike Hawk's layout, and it is such a wonderful route. There's my train sim mind. Layout. It's such a wonderful layout, but it does feel like a route. It really feels like going from point A to point B. I'm liking this from a sort of initial glance. I think this is nice. This really gives us a feeling that we're out in the middle of nowhere, and I think that's such a good contrast from all the urban development that we're going to get into. That's good as a base layer, which means we're going to put in some textures just to give enough of a sense. Again, we'll get into super detailing, possibly off camera, but this should at least give enough of a sense of this is Scotland Yard and the main line and the yard lead. Okay, so we're going to bring up our PBR textures, our procedural BR, peanut butter railroading. We're going to bring up our PBR textures, which means that they are not just flat, they actually have a little bit of dimension to them. If you zoom in, you can see that grass actually has elevation. This is the reason why I love Trains 19. I think that when these work, we've seen where they could be jelly, so they are not perfect, but where they work, they are really nice. We're going to go dark. I want to go really kind of dark green for the woods on this, at least for this section. And then we'll add. I think actually maybe we'll do dark green for the whole thing, and then we'll add some other layers on top. Obviously, we're not gonna have this much grass through the yards for the final thing, but this is just our base layer. This is just, we want to get rid of all that grid in this area, and this is going to allow us to do that. Now, for Trainsy route building, so in real life, the fascia runs right along here. We are going to have to square that up for the sake of the sim. So I think I'm going to actually add a field in this corner, because that's not going to really change how the layout looks substantially, but it gives us something to do visually that still feels authentic to what the final product or the actual 3D layout is going to look like. Let's get some ballast and see what we come up with on that particular front. Crushed stone. How do we like the look of that? Maybe a bit big. Scale it down. Maybe as a base for the yard here, and then we'll add some other layers to give it a bit more variety. But it at least meshes with, it looks good with the track, it looks good with the road. We're also probably going to want to set the elevation of all these tracks to 0, as well as, this is the part of the show where I'm kind of talking out to myself. I'm thinking of what we'll need to do in order to get it to play right. Oop, that was too wide. We'll go narrow for that. Then along here. And then I'm treating this section, well, so far it's looking like it's really well maintained. I'm going to say that because this is coming in and out of the yard, that it is fairly well maintained, and this is not early Conrail. If we were doing Penn Central early Conrail, the track would be barely above the ground level. Water break while I read your comments. Not simultaneously, I'm just going to read them. Oh, hi Grand Prix. Yes, I definitely remember SP60. Glad to see you here tonight. Talk of standing in stations and standing towers. I didn't see any facilities listed. So I know that there are engine tracks here. So there might, some facilities might go in there in a bit, but we're going to vary the ballast a little bit, try to get some different colors so that it doesn't look so repetitive, which is the problem you get if you use too much of the same texture over and over and over. Let's do another stone texture for around the yard office. Yeah, I like that we've got a little bit of brown. Give some variety to it rather than just going straight gray. We're gonna set all the track elevations to 0 because because you can see that. So right now, whenever you see a spline in Train Z where the circle is white, whether it be a fence, a track, a road, if it's white, that means it's going to conform to the land, which, as you can see here, means that it's going up and down and up and down. So we want it at a fixed height of 0. So that's what we're going to set, which is going to be set vertex height, apply vertex height, and we just click on these points, and we just get them to turn yellow, and that guarantees that they are really going to be 0, and they are going to really remain at 0 no matter what we do with the landscape around them. Something that dirt road is good to have it as a white circle, because then that means that if we add hills and stuff, the road will just contour to it, which is what you want to happen with a dirt road. Let's put the field in here. just so that we've got that. PBR field, switching to textures. And yeah, I like that. It's a light green, slightly different shade to work with. And just squaring it off so that it's even with where the edges of the map are, where the baseboards are going to go. Thinking ahead because, as you saw with Kootenai, we once all the scenery's done, we add the fascia, the floor, and make it look like a train layout. Then we're gonna add some dirt as to provide a border between the ballast and the field. That's maybe a bit too dry. I want something a little darker, rocky dirt. Yeah, that seems right. And I think we'll also make it a little bit lower so that this doesn't look as flat as it does. Maybe we'll adjust it to like -0.2 meters. So what's interesting is that when working in Train Z, you could change the scale, which doesn't affect anything visually, but it changes how rulers work. So you have the ability to draw rulers out, which is great when you're trying to actually track plan. Like if you're trying to track plan in the sim as opposed to importing a track plan, the rulers are fantastic. But for some reason, it doesn't change the height units. The heights are always in meters. And 1-to-1 meters, not scale meters. Add a bit more ballast to the track, scale it to 0.1 meter. Could do that. Thinking since this is going in and out of a yard, it might not have quite the elevation that it would if it were full main line. Subject to change, but I think I'm going to leave it at that. Is 0.2 enough? Yeah, maybe more like 0.4 meters now. And we'll just a little bit more just to give a sense of that the track's looking up. Recognizing that, of course, this is in the middle of Aisleway, but just so we have something that looks cool in the context of the sim. I'm satisfied enough with this. Yeah, there's super detailing to do, but I want to look at some other scenes with you guys tonight. This was just to play around with getting something in place. We can look at the yard and it looks good. It looks solid. But what do you guys think? Do you like what's been done with the yard thus far? Kind of visualizing how it can get realized. Okay. Oh, right. That's the staircase here. So there's Scotland Yard, and there's our yard lead and our main going into the layout proper, you could say. I think this is a good example of where what you have is a very straightforward conventional staging yard, but if you're not putting your staging yard underneath your layout that's accessed by elevation changes or helices, then you might as well scenic it, and scenery does not need to be complicated. You could just use a backdrop, you could use you could just use basic ballast, but it's better than just straight wood. So we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to look at the scene proper. So stay tuned. I will be back in just a few minutes after, well, I'd say a word from these sponsors, except there's no sponsors. But we'll be right back. and welcome back to Great Train Layouts Live. And we're going to get underway with the next section of constructing the P&L Secondary, a fictional Conrail branch line as modeled in HO scale by Rudy and his wife, Carolyn. This is the town of... Golly, I want to call it Lingenberg, but I know it isn't, so it's Linglestown. Thank you, map. This is Linglestown. So we decided earlier that, yeah, we're going to go with backdrops and we're going to leave it as that, as the way of dividing, especially between this bakery and this yard lead that just completely separates the two. I think that's nice. There's also kind of the person separation. So somebody who's operating the yard and switching back there, that's also a visual divider, so you're only seeing what's going on here. Lingle's town. I was almost going to say Linglesbury again. Is something worth talking about a little bit and worth getting in some ground textures while we do that. Just, again, to get something in there. This is going to require some super detailing. We're actually going to talk about... I think we might work on this corner a bit, because this corner is something that's kind of puzzling me. So, Linglestown, well, we'll leave that there for the time being. You've got two different switching areas here. We've got this coal dealer. There's a distillery, I want to say it is. Yeah, beer distributor and feed store, which I believe also had like propane dealer served by rail. So this, what I like about this is, in general, I like how we have essentially 4 distinct switching areas, or 3 plus the staging area. But even within just switching Linglestown, you have the north side of town with the news and the bakery, and the south side here with these industries. Now this coal dealer is going to be interesting, because we've got a coal dealer right next to a park. But I think if we went with some kind of shed-like building, then that might, or just bins, then that might not spill over, literally or figuratively, into the park. That's going to be the interesting here. The only challenge visually with having this park scene, because as I talked about earlier, I think that doing a park, which is something that requires a wide space, where typically in model railroading we're working within 1 to 2 feet of a wall, it's worth having. But how to get a coal distributor? Well, if we make some kind of... Let's have a look at our shed options, because I think if we have some shed where the idea is that the coal could be dumped under the track, and then there's a conveyor into the building or something like that, then maybe that's a way of kind of containing it. Let's see what we can do. These are interesting sheds, but I like it from I want to use this. So I'm going to drag this over there, because it may come in handy for something later. But not right now. Let's see what we've got. See, something like this. I mean, this may not be the world's most conventional coal dealer, but for the sake of being able to fit it into the space, that's too big. Then we might end up going along the lines of something that's maybe not the most realistic of coal dealers, but just allows us to have that industry. See, I'm thinking in the back, if we were doing this 50s, you'd have the coal trestle. Which raises interesting questions about maybe having a coal trestle. I'm starting to form an idea. And I don't know if this is what Rudy, Carolyn have in mind, but let's try let's try something a bit different. So let's say that once upon a time there was, and I know this may not be the right asset to use, but I'm going to use it anyway just to have something in place, and then I might swap it out later. Once upon a time, there was an actual hill that led to this coal trestle from off layout this way. The trestle no longer served in that manner. Maybe there's some type of conveyor or something next to it, but and so the trestle's a bit overgrown. But then you could at least say the coal is still piled underneath the trestle. Rudy's saying it was supposed to be a small place, basically a bucket loader or a conveyor belt with a pile of coal. Okay, I could do that too. Well, I'm going to leave this here just in case I decide I still want it, even with the kind of reduced facilities. But we can delete that later if we don't like. Conveyor. How do I convey that I am looking for a conveyor? And a small one, not a big one. This is... That's also a big one. CPR Ashton. No, that's going to be... Well, let's see. That's about the right size if we just lower the height. Yeah, if we lower the height. Oh, it can't... Wait, why can't... I can't go any lower than that. Okay, that's a bit unfortunate, because I actually kind of like that conveyor. Per mill, that's going to be way too big. That'll come into play later. I'm not a huge fan of this one, but for the sake of convenience, we'll say here is our conveyor. Let's hook it up near the trestle, and then coal pile. And place that. Okay. I can dig it. And then how do I like the trestle? Maybe it looks a little too... Because we could put trees around that, make that overgrown, but I think it's too small. We'll just get rid of it there. But that's why we try these things out and we experiment with this, that, and the other. I'm glad you don't mind that I'm experimenting with the trestle, Rudy. We'll give it one quick shot. We'll give it one, like, just to see what it looks like. Partially because I think that anytime you can have elements, especially of an 80s route where there used to be this thing and this thing's no longer there, then that can kind of be its own fun. So if you then said, okay, so the trestle goes to about here, the coal got piled underneath it, so the coal's still piled there. Again, I know that there's way too many supports to actually be able to use it. But we can replace that with a different trestle asset at another time. And then we just put a few trees around to give a sense of, hey, this is no longer in use as it was intended. I mean, scenically, I like this. Actually, I do actually like this. I mean, yes, it's close to the park, so I could see the neighbors not being totally keen on it as is. You could adjust the road a little bit, but then you start to get the... Then you start to get the park starts to become a bit too small. So maybe we'll say that... How do the trucks get to it, though, becomes the question. Because I'm inclined to then go, okay, so let's put a bunch of, well, not those tall sawsmas, but something like this around the edges, because then it makes it look a little more green, and then the neighbors aren't complaining that it looks so... This is, I mean, yeah, you're not going to ever look at the layout like this, but in real life. But in the simulator, I just don't know. It's on the fence for me. I'm torn. I wish we had like another 6 inches or so, just to have enough trees to give the sense that there's distance. But I've got one other idea. I've got one other sense, and I think that what that is that the trucks come in here, so they don't come in the sides, which means we've got, well, I like that tree. We've got the tree crawling along the trestle work there, and then one more well-placed tree that can go here, and then that way, it looks too similar from the other one. Ordinarily not this picky about trees, but given that they are right next to each other, I want to make sure that there's a little bit of distinction. While we're finishing this up, I will give a shout out to a new creative endeavor that I'm part of, but isn't actually primarily mine, and that is a new series being developed by Casey called the Virtual Railroaders Academy, and I am the co-host of that show, and Casey is a real-life train crew. She is somebody with experience working on steam locomotives. And we have a series called Railroaders Play Railroads Online, where we play the popular game Railroaders Online and use it to talk about real-world railroading expertise and how it's done one for one on a fictional railroad called the Ahsokan, Mohonk, and Western. And we have a lot of ideas of where we're going to take this series. This is a live stream show that is every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you wish to check it out, there is a link tree for it. So it's linktr.ee/virtual railroaders railroader single virtual railroader academy. 3 hours of fun playing railroads online, and we're talking about everything from how a steam locomotive works to double heading to communication, timetable, train orders. So if you think that that would be a lot of fun, again, linktr.ee linktree/virtual railroader academy. We're hosting that every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern. You know, I'm liking this. It may be one of those things that you could operationally poke holes in, but I just like it too darn much. I think it gives this sense of history. It gives this sense of once upon a time. And anytime you could create stories with your layout, especially if you're doing something freelance, you should welcome that opportunity. So, and certainly from here, it works in and of itself. This works as an interesting scene, but then if you're like trying to appreciate the park for what it is, you can look there. And then when you're looking at the park, yes, you still see the trestle. Maybe the neighbors are petitioning to get the trestle removed, and maybe it's gone by modern day. That could be an interesting element of transition to replicate. But I think I'm liking this, so we're going to stick with that. We're going to stick with that for what it is. The town itself, I don't think we're going to change much, at least not tonight, because I'm pretty happy with how it's come out looking. Doing the park thing was just, I was really happy when I came up with that idea. We've just adjusted the sidewalks a bit. Although I'm realizing now that I look at it, actually, we're going to stick with that because this side's growing over. We don't have as much room for a sidewalk, and we need to have access for trucks to get in there. Base-wise... oh, well, before we get to texturing this, we're gonna do some work down here. So this is actually gonna have a little bit of a water feature. This is one of the few kind of scenery elements that already exists on... Because Rudy and Carolyn sent photos to me so I could kind of get a sense of what's already been done, make sure that I got the track work accurate. So So they've got a pond going on down here. I don't know if I'm going to put pond, but I do like the idea that this should be looking up at the town. At the very least, we'll have it be just a little gully. And then that'll just get filled in with shrubs. Let's talk about this Y. This might be the most challenging thing we tackled tonight. So, it's not really a Y, because obviously we don't have all three legs of it, but V. We'll call it a V, because that's what it actually is. So this V, it's an odd property shape, but we want to have something in there. Could we get away with just trees? Well, not super teeny tiny trees. Could we get away with trees like this? Yes. And maybe there's something to be said for that. Maybe we just do trees there, because this is not going to be a tree-heavy route. We'll see them appear other places, but I'm just going to delete this. I keep putting it back in there like maybe I'll want it, but no. I think, because I was thinking about having some kind of, having buildings along here on this side, and then you'd have like a little, dumpster and that kind of stuff, but I feel like that's going to be similar to a scrapyard that's going to be, that it's an actual rail serviced industry on another part of the layout. No. I like this. Although so if in terms of the backdrop, I would be doing more buildings. Obviously this is going to be a hole here, but I would do more buildings, more of a sense of depth and continuation beyond this. So pretending that we've got more buildings for the city backdrop here, how do I feel about that? And also the fact that we are going to switch over to the walls layer, and we're going to actually add in that little hole, because I think that's going to help us just kind of picture what this looks like. Kind of. Ooh, not that version of the fascia. We are looking for this version of the fascia. I like to use this when I need to make a hole. You will have seen me use it on the Commonwealth project that we did last time. It just gives a sense of, hey, there's a hole here. It leads somewhere, we assume. It is a void to the unknown, or at least a void to the other side of the layout. And maybe it's a bit taller than it needs to be. Let's check. We'll check with the placeholder, which is going to be our motive power for today. We're not running double stacks. We can lower it to the height of this. And that down. About there. Yep, that'll do the trick. We'll get the height so we make sure that it's even on both sides. And there we have it. Okay. I like it. I wasn't sure if I would want, if I'd want trees on this portion, but I think I do. And I think I want them because thematically, if you're following the train from the other side, you've come out of forest. You've come out of a lot of trees. So maybe it's a little less of a jump if you go back, if you have trees that are then leading into this town, especially if this is the edge of town. So yeah, I'm kind of liking this. I'm liking this. So yeah, I think we're gonna go with trees for here, just because then it solves this. It also gives the sense of, here's this main line, because this is the main line, and then this is the branch line, and it really whatever we can do to make the main line feel like the main line and everything else feeling slightly less important than the main line, and removed from it, then it makes it feel less like the whole thing's an industrial switcher. Sometimes you want that. Sometimes you want it to all feel like there's no main line, there's no like it's all track. But other times, you want it to be specific. So, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, more on how to get this transition to work out. So stay tuned. And we are back here on Great Train Layouts Live, where we are building the P&L Secondary, a fictional Conrail branch line. So, when we last left our heroes, we figured out that we like trees, and we're going to put some cush bushes in place just to really emphasize kind of how much this is its own main line, it is its own thing. This is getting into a little bit of the weeds, partially intended, of detailing, but I think it's worth doing here just to kind of see for sure, okay, what are we talking about? What are we looking at if we're saying that this is going to be kind of, somewhat weedy, but really just more like it's the words of eight. Compact, I guess you could say. Like the vegetation's definitely getting close into what we're looking at. Well, let's try that. Don't know why those are placing so far out from where the center is. Let's try these bushes. Oh, yeah, like that. Yeah, I like how that looks. And then we'll just move them a little bit over to here. But yeah, I think that's because that's a nice little scene in and of itself. This is another thing that feels like it's very much its own piece. And anytime you're working with small spaces and not a lot of distance and not a lot of travel, the more you can create individual scenes that give a sense of when you're looking at this, it's completely removed from what's just 1 foot away, the better. Looking at your comments now. Carolyn wants to use the weird V for an ice cream place. Well, you could. We could still put an ice cream place there. I have an idea about that one. Do we have any ice cream places? Let's see what we've got. Let's see. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Thanks for reminding me that 1978 Conrail will be more like Penn Central. That's true. Right, yes, this is 1979 Conrail. So maybe I am doing certain things too nice and we need to distress it a bit. That'll probably come in the super detailing section. Ice cream van. Well, this is cute, but not a place. Ice cream stand, probably a little small. And an ice cream truck. All right, we'll do a wee bit of download station shopping for ice cream, which it's a separate window, so that's why those of you following along at home aren't necessarily seeing it, and why I try to keep it. I try to keep this part short because I don't want you to get bored as I scroll through different items for download. I've just got let's see what that looks like. If need be, we'll just put in another placeholder building that looks close enough, even if it's not technically an ice cream joint. But let's see what we can do. Oh, it's a little big. It's a little big, but it's so cute. It's Moo Moo's. Oh, we gotta make this work. We're gonna make this work. Okay, we're gonna squeeze these trees here. It's gonna be. I mean, this is gonna be pressing it a bit, admittedly. Like, this is right up against the side of that. I don't think that's the end of the world. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Let's see. Once again, guys, thank you very much for tuning in tonight, and hope that you continue to enjoy the projects that we tackle here on Great Train Layouts Live, as well as the What Makes This Layout Great series. And as I mentioned earlier, so this project has been commissioned by the layout owners, Rudy and Carolyn. And if you are designing a train layout of your own, whether it be a small shelf layout or a large basement empire, and you're trying to, and you want help with track design, or you have a track design and you want to have assistance in visually realizing what this could look like before you have to build it, and maybe you're getting stumped on certain scenes, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you out. I do take commissions. Feel free to contact me. Probably the best way right now until we have the website up is through the roundhousepodcast.com. There's a contact us page there, and that goes to me. Or you could just shoot me an email, and that is Nick Ozorak, O-Z-O-R-A-K, at theroundhousepodcast.com. Be happy to discuss how I can help you to realize your dream layout. So this is pushing it, but it's moo-moos. We gotta, I mean, look at that cow. Like, we gotta have moo-moos. So we're doing moo-moos, even if moo-moos is a little big for this space. I will wholeheartedly acknowledge that we probably only need half of moo-moos, but it works. We're going with moo-moos. So there you go. Ice cream stand it is. But this is, in all sincerity, this illustrates that it is possible to have a building there, and actually, okay. So we've got a parking lot here, and we're gonna throw in a car. That's where we'll put that Porsche. I don't know if it's the right era. Oh, 1982. It's a few years off. Let's see what we've got in terms of 1970s vehicles. It's so difficult. I wish that buildings were, and objects were more organized in terms of eras and so forth. It can be really difficult when you're trying to find certain structures. 1960, or 1960, okay, yes, there we go. We've got a 1961 Corvette. That technically works. And that feels, oh, that feels classic. So we've got a parking lot here. But here's the old noggin working. Picnic benches. And I'm pretty sure I have picnic tables. Yes. Picnic tables. Now this is getting into, admittedly, a little bit of kind of super detailing. And it's not that I try to avoid that directly with you guys, especially if I have the assets ready to go. But placing scenery and stuff, it could be a little, I don't want it to take away from kind of the big picture items of like, how are we going to realize this visually? So this is just to give us enough of a sense of like what can be done. But isn't this nice? Like now you set up some people out there, they could be enjoying ice cream. And it's worth super detailing this because this was right next to the edge of the layout. So people are going to be looking at this scene. I think that looks pretty legit. The tree growing through the building is very Conrail. Yes, it is, TJ. It most assuredly is very Conrail. This is called working with the assets that we have available. But, you know, if we're not overly analyzing it, it's like, it works. But now we get the benefit of this street scene looking like it continues, and if you use some type of backdrop suggesting that there's more of the town beyond this wall, yeah, I think that's sharp. Obviously, we're going to have to height adjust the road, we're going to have to put crossings in. We could do a bit of that. You guys got to tell me if you ever, if at any point you're kind of getting bored with watching super detailing stuff. I try to keep it nice and varied, but I do want you to be able to see how a scene comes together. So I'm flexible because I want you guys to be entertained. That's why you're here, and that's why I appreciate you guys tuning in. And now let's put in some crossings. Probably gonna go with wooden ones. Is it cross or exit? Yeah, wood grade crossing. That one looks a little bit odd given the context. I think this is probably what we're going to end up doing. And this isn't perfect either because there's a little bit of odd clipping, but I think given the assets we're using, that's probably the best compromise we've got. It's decent enough, you get the point. It's very easy to get lost in, oh, I want this to look absolutely perfect, but I think the importance is variety. Crossing signs. So, crossing sign. We'll go to our objects for that. And I know we have some pretty rusty ones. Now, this gets into questions of, do you do any with lights and so forth? I think probably not. I like these being manual. White Star 22, curious as to what railroad you're doing now as I just tuned in. We are doing the Conrail P&L secondary, which is a fictional Pennsylvania branch line. Thank you for joining us, White Star. Good to see you back. Gonna go, and we'll also have to try Xing. Yeah, I think that's good enough for now. Side note, I'm really digging the wall art on this, and one of the benefits of brick buildings, especially of this era, you can have a lot of fun with faded signs and so forth. There's so much room to have fun with the fictional downtown business names and all that kind of jazz. Oops. Went to turn sign, ended up turning building instead. Easier if we get the sign rotated to the right angle, and then we put it into place about here. Hey, we got it turned around that time, and that worked. And now we're going to go back and make sure that we get that taken care of. And then we'll put another sign facing this way. And we're going to raise the ground a little bit here, partially because, oh, forgot to do the track leveling here. So we're going to do that first before we play around with the terrain. Get rid of the crossing signs. And set all of these vertex heights to a big, fat, whopping... Oh, I can't set that one because I have a locomotive on it. So we'll need to change that in a moment. But we're going to set them to a big, fat, whopping 0. So that as we're manipulating the terrain, we're not taking the track with it. We will move our locomotive to the yard, since we now know that it will fit through our hole. And setting that to 0. Superbird, any consideration to have some slight elevation going up to the news? All seems a bit flat for the central PA town. Agreed, but also the track has been laid. So we're treating the track as a fixed... The track has been laid, it's been glued. So we are treating this as a cannot be adjusted kind of situation. I might be cheating that a little bit with an upcoming scene, but for the most part, we're going to try to not do anything that would require ripping out any established track work or anything along those lines. Yeah, I'm going to have to use a different brush texture, but I like that. Yeah, there we go. I mean, it's a little repetitive. We'll need to vary that up a bit for the final product. But, ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Then that's a little less repetitive. But yeah, that's a cool scene. I'm liking that a lot. So, and then in terms of the scenery here, we're raising this up, and hey, we're going to cover the track a little bit, and that's okay. And you know why that's okay? Not just because I said so, although that's a good reason in and of itself, but because this is a branch line, and so, and really industrial siding. So if we're taking away some of that ballast, that's actually probably a good thing. We're going to start with a... Yeah, we'll get the terrain done for this scenery and this space here. Probably more of that dark green that we were using on the other side. Again, just as our initial base, and then we'll add some ballast and so forth. Obviously, we're going to have a lot to do when it comes to the cement plant, but just getting some initial green in place. We'll just start with that side of it, and then we'll adjust from there. Yeah, I like that. And truth is, I'm going to put a bit of ballast, but not a ton, because knowing that it's 1979 Conrail, it probably should not have a ton. Arguably, this is even nicer than 1979 Conrail, but distressing things in the sim is difficult at best. It's hard to get things to look worn in a computer environment. So we're going to call that good for the time being. Now, looking at this, the only downside with this wall, and so it might require playing with the curve a bit. We do have this switch here. It is possible to reach it, but man, with those trees there, that's going to be a little tricky. That might want to be an electronic one. Or electric. Because that's going to be a tricky switch to reach from either end. Doable, but tricky. And that's going to affect the backdrop. We'll leave it as is, because in the sim, it's not important, but a consideration for when you're thinking about where you put your switches in relationship to where people can reach them. Not a problem from the standpoint that trains are going through here, so from switching standpoint, it's okay. It's just you need to make sure you can reach it or something. We are going to go for more of that good old crushed stone ballast, but the brown kind for around here. Man, I'm getting nostalgic for a place I've never been to, because, you know, this is a fictional place, and yet I'm thinking about all the times I've gone for a nice ice cream cone on a hot summer day. And honestly, here's something I'm thinking about as I'm, you know, bathing in childhood nostalgia. If your layout can speak to kind of universal ideas, you know, things that just about anybody can look at that layout and see a scene that evokes a sense of nostalgia. I mean, obviously, you want to build something that you want first and foremost. But it's great when you have scenes that I think anyone can relate to. Sometimes they're amusing, sometimes they're serious. But I think there's such a nostalgia for going for that summer ice cream cone. Throw your favorite ice cream flavor into the comments section if you're watching along live. Let's see what the favorites are out there. But I think there's something to be said for being able to, that people can see something they can identify with it. Especially, again, this is a fictional place. So whatever can ground it in that sense of reality, that sense of I've been there, I've done that, makes it all the more realistic. Even to you, as the creator of this virtual landscape. Because yeah, I'm liking that a lot. Like that is so nostalgic right there. It makes me think of Oil City, Pennsylvania, near where I grew up. There's a McDonald's that's right, the Western New York and Pennsylvania Railroad cuts right through downtown Oil City. It's a really cool scene. I want to do a scene based on that on the show here, but you could be at the McDonald's drive-thru and watch Alco's going right by you 10 feet away from your car. This makes me think of that. No fences, nothing. Mint chip, CJ, nice. John Overman, cookies and cream. Oh, a good one. I'm a cookie dough person, but yes, a lot of. Oh man, am I looking forward to getting back into the days of summer and being able to enjoy some sweet treats, smoothies, and the like. Let's see. We're actually not going to be... Well, we're not set to do switching in this area. It's funny, because actually the switching... So, I... Revealing this surprise a bit. and talking with Rudy, he sent me a switch list for cars that were for the cement plant and for this industrial park. And here we are, an hour and 40 into the stream, and we still haven't gotten down to the industrial park. So we might invent some switching. I think we're going to probably end up just finishing the big scenery items of this and maybe a little bit of the cement plant. And then we'll just have some fun playing with this section here. I think that's what we're going to do. So this is one border of the layout. So let's actually just remind ourselves of that by way of... Oh no, did I... oh good. Well, it's a few items that I created as part of the fascia. Oh golly. I told you, it's... You know, so I have these as the wrong layer. So I'll have to play with that later. But for the time being, we're just going to add we're going to continue the fascia going this way and have it line up with the edge of the layout here. And that way, because I think that's where it lines up if we look at the base maps. Yep, pretty darn tootin' close. So now we are on the root layer. Thank goodness we're on the right layer this time. Let's just get the town finished up. And then I think we'll have, for tonight's play session, we're gonna run a switch job from the yard to the town of Linglestown, and we'll switch this out, because I think we can get this, we'll at least get rid of the grid. We'll do that much. So, again, they've, Rudy and Carolyn, so we're planning a water feature here. I have an idea for a water feature elsewhere, so... and tell me, what are you guys thinking of this layout? You like Conrail? You like what we're doing here? Because I'll be honest, I was a little hesitant going in because I felt like we'd get caught into too much super detailing, and so I thought it'd be a 1 week stream. But I think we might actually come back next week. So if you guys are enjoying this build, enjoying your time tonight, let me know, and I'll factor that. Yeah, I will factor that in as to whether or not we do. And then what we'll do next week, if you guys think it's a cool idea, is we'll do the concrete plant and we'll do this industrial park. I think that could make a nice two-parter of things. Kevin Cyber, plain strawberry. Bonus points if they have the little cuts of strawberries mixed in. Nice. Especially fresh. Fresh, mixed in strawberries. Good plan. Okay. Now here's another one of those what do we do here kind of things. We've got these two tracks that are coming in. This one is servicing the news. Oh, it's time for our daily cameo of Kitty. Say hello to Alco. Hey, buddy. Say hello to the folks at home. I was wondering if you would cameo. So Alco is a recent addition to the Ozrak household. He adopted, and for a long time he was actually sitting regularly on my desk, but he's gotten very comfortable with our bed. So he doesn't sit on the desk as much anymore, which is kind of nice because then he's not crawling over my keyboard. Let's see. Matt Kundrick. I've been enjoying it. I missed the beginning, so mind either of you giving more details on the layout's history and such. If you go into the description for this video, you will see a link to, I think it's conrail79.com. There's a link where Rudy and Carolyn have full details on this fictional Conrail branch line, and you can see the track plan and so forth. White Star, not a huge Conrail guy, but you're liking it? Good. Conrail is cool, super bird, nice to have some East Coast representation. Alrighty. So, we've got the news as our one industry here. This track is basically our bakery lead. So, what do we do here? Well, I think we do parking. because I'm thinking about my hometown of Meadville, Pennsylvania, and I'm thinking about how you have the storefronts along that you see along Chestnut Street, and then on the back is where the store owners park, where they take maybe some deliveries and so forth. So I think that's what we're going to do here. Is just basically have it be open dirt lot, maybe some weeds and grass along the track. I'll even fence this in because I think it'd be nice to throw some fence in here. So I think we'll just keep this open. Maybe I'll have some other great creative inspiration. And then again here, we're looking between these two tracks. I want to put some bushes. No trees. Just bushes. I think that bushes will help to give... It's not so much about giving a sense of distance like it was with Scotland Yard and the yard lead in the main. It's more just about that the height variety that you get with having different types of greenery and so forth. Maybe, you know, because it's this little plot of land, who's going to develop it kind of thing. So I think actually it lends itself pretty well to this idea of bushes and so forth. And even a little bit of that kind of peekaboo effect, where you can't always see the train perfectly clearly. Yeah, I'm liking that. We're going to continue this as an idea. Although not with the 12. Let's throw... Oh, that's a nice one. We'll throw that in there. Bit of a big one, but if we turn it, it will fit. Yeah, like that. And then we'll just repeat a couple of these ideas thematically to make sure that we're getting a good variety of colors. Because just like in model railroading, you want to make sure that you've got the variety down. So that it's a nice mixture of things. The challenge that I find in the sim is that a lot of times the colors can be oversaturated. So that's why I really love these trees, these STRMM trees, because they're not overly saturated, not boom with the color. Unless you want that. We've got other trees for that. Hi, Alco. Alco is very vocal. Pity. He's an Alco. So, yeah. That's exactly what we needed. Well, you've got your head there. It kind of makes it hard. And then in the foreground, we could maybe put... Do I want to put a tree or two? I'm tempted, but maybe not that big. Maybe... yeah, itty-bitty sosnas. Just a little bit of foreground, background, kind of depth. And I'm not sure how much room there is. Well, I could check the photos. But I think for the sake of what we're doing here, having a little bit of that variety. May change with that. Let's see. So we've got our bakery here. We want a loading platform. We actually have a loading platform on this side with this building. So maybe we need to think about it more like this. And then bringing that here. And then just leaving that where it's at. I like the angle of it. Like how nicely it lines up with the fascia. Nice. Kevin, trees, the STRMM trees cause crashes. I'm sorry to hear that. They're really good. What can I say? I wish it's all I can recommend is maybe save your pennies, invest in a new computer. If you think it's a performance issue, or try turning down the settings. Something along those lines. That's kind of my best guess. We're going to put green down here, even though admittedly this is going to not be green, but it's just that getting rid of the grid. Let's put down some gravel. Yeah, like so. And then I think we could do some weeds and the like along the... Because, yeah, admittedly, this track is probably nicer than it should be, but we're not going to get into that too crazy tonight. Let us see about weed. JVC tends to have some good wildflowers and weeds and that kind of thing. Key is just making sure they're not too wide. Oh, I like these. I'm going to use these over here for a little bit of an accent. But they're going to be too big for what we want to do. Here. Oh, that looks nice. I think they might naturally be white. They might be white because of the season. This is nice. I mean, this is nice if you want to be like, that track hasn't been used in a very long time. It's going to be too wide for just about anything we want to do here. There we go. Okay, this is good. This is... And again, this is getting into super detailing stuff, but just to give a little bit of a, hey, here's where we're going in the long run of things. Obviously, as you guys know, these routes get released publicly. They get, you're able to see them, download them. They'll, like, this will be a full what makes this layout great episode once it's complete. But you're going to be able to download it as well. But this gives you a little bit of a sense. I like that as a scene. And obviously, you're never going to be able to see it quite from this angle unless you're putting your cell phone camera down on the tracks. But I'm digging that. I'm liking that a lot. And I hope that you guys are too. It's great to have you along for the ride tonight, as always. And appreciate you tuning in. We're here Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Either you're getting a new episode of What Makes This Layout Great, or you're getting a new Great Train Layouts Live, like tonight. And that's going to be the case next week as well. Let's go with a slightly lighter PBR grass for this edge, just to give it a bit of variety. Do I like that? Some of these look too, well, for one thing, the scale's off. A bit too big or a bit too... Yeah, there we go. Just some quick highlights. And yes, again, that's going to be changed. Let's go back to the gravel. And we're going to make this... Oh, that's not PBR. That is definitely not PBR. Gravel. We're going to mix that up just so it doesn't look too uniform. There we go. Now it looks a little bit more random. Now here we're gonna say, surround the building with some gravel. How did the trucks and cars and trucks get here? Parking lot's probably modeled off site. I don't know that I want to get too into detailing, doing that kind of detailing for here. However, I do want to place some bushes and shrubs along this edge because I think that looks nice. Yeah, I'm liking that. You've got kind of this visual theme of the shrubs going straight. Let's lower some of these trees, give them a little bit of height variety. Yeah, I'm liking that as a scene a lot. It's really starting to come, like, this is a good one. So thank you to Rudy and Carolyn for coming to me and asking for assistance with this layout, commissioning me to do this build. And if you guys watching along have a layout that maybe you're trying to figure out a track plan, or you've got a track plan but you're trying to figure out scenery, reach out to me, Nick Ozorak at theroundhousepodcast.com. That's Ozorak. Or alternatively, you could just go to theroundhousepodcast.com, and then there's a contact us page, and you can contact me, and I'd be happy to work with you. Derpy Possum, just popping in to say hi. Best of luck on this layout. Well, thank you. Glad that you could join us tonight, Mr. Possum. Yeah, I'm liking that. Let's get a fence. Do I want a fence there? Kind of do. I feel like there's maybe been issues with cars parking too close to the track or something like that. So we're gonna say there's a fence here. I don't, and it'd be easy enough to remove later if we wanted to. But uh, now this is maybe to maximum security, but kind of like that chain link fence. Let's see. There we go. That's the stuff. Just a little bit of visual variety. Sometimes it's not necessarily about whether, practically speaking, there would or would not be that scenery element there. But sometimes it's just if you want it. I mean, this is your layout. You could adhere to reality as much or as little as you want. And that's the beauty of it. There we go. I like that. I'm happy with that. Let's lower the track, or the road, so that we can put in the crossings. And we're just gonna make sure the rails stick out over the tops of the sidewalk, and then we'll put the actual wood planks in, aka these. Not compatible with the... Oh, it thought I was trying to place it on the spline. Well, yeah, that's strange for you at times. Of course, we're building this as we do our projects in Train Z Railroad 19. In fact, I'm told that as of this being broadcast, that there is a sale on Trains with a Z on Steam. Something like 90% off, which is ridiculously good deal. So if you don't have Trains with a Z, you're liking what you see here, you're going to want to try this route or any other routes we cover on Great Train Layouts Live, or what makes this layout great. Might as well pick up Trains with a Z. Not sponsored to say that, just saying that somebody pointed that out to me on Facebook today. Oh, I am liking this. I'm liking this. This is nice. This is nice. And I think I mean, maybe it's just me. We will do routes that are nothing but concrete jungle. But I like kind of weaving plants and buildings together. Steven, a small bar where the railroaders can spend their money would fit nicely between the two tracks. Could, yes. Maybe over here. Let's see what we've got as far as bars are concerned. We've got a Subaru. Not sure why that's a track object. I mean, that feels like something I could see in a city, but not actually what we're looking for. Bar gets Subaru. Let's see. 3-bar fence. Maybe pub. Let's try pub. Oh wait, no, I'm looking in spline objects. No wonder I couldn't find bar. Although we'll also find barn and barber shop and things that aren't specifically what we're looking for. Actually, how does that look? I mean, maybe a bit too tall? As you can see, I'm obviously trying to keep a lower visual motif. Maybe a bit too tall. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it works. There's nothing wrong with it as is. It's maybe a bit tall for what I'm looking for. This is a very different kind of barbershop that is not going to fit here thematically. We might have to search for pub. Barrels. Well, that could be clutter for the Conrail yard. Another Subaru, or billboard for Subarus. Now I'm feeling like this is supposed to be an episode that's sponsored by Subaru for some reason. There we go. Okay, here we are. Yes, so good idea, Steven, and here we are. This is what we're talking about. I mean, it's... Oh, the signs are just a little too wide. We might have to well, we'll move the track over. It's not going to really change the fabric of the layout too much. Now, granted, yes, the sign is still pointed out the side, but I'm okay with that. I like that as a scene. So yes, you got your bar. It is now in there. So we're going to move the track just a little bit over so that our trains aren't running into the sign. It does change so much. You make one little change and then it's like, oh, but now... there we are. Okay, that's a reasonable compromise. And that way we're still adhering to the spirit of the thing. Because obviously, when you're building a layout, you're not stuck to the kind of same rigid rules that I am with building with the available assets, as you see here. Yeah, I like that. That fills that nicely. This feels like a town. Like, this feels like the edge of a town, so I'm very happy with how that's looking. Tea break. My wife wanted to make sure that I properly showed off the Tigger mug. So, it's going to say Harry Potter fans. No, Winnie the Pooh fans. You can enjoy that one. Let's add some haze bumpers in this design. And I said, haze. What a wonderful kind of track bumper that we can place along the tracks. There's such a nice feeling of completion when you put in a haze bumper on a side. It just rounds it out nicely. And we'll put another one here. And actually, we should probably put one for the yard lead as well on the other side. All the staging will need them as well, but don't want to get too far away from the core. Let's play around a little bit with the terrain here. Shrink the ballast a bit so it's not looking so well kept. We might add a little bit of ballast, but not too much. I really want to keep it looking kind of rough. So there we have that. So we've got let's see what we can do. Let's just get, this shouldn't be actually that hard. I feel like this is really just going to be getting the terrain in here. So this is going with more of the brown texture. Let's get this one in here, and I'm going to use a lot of this because I don't like that brown so much, but that's why we mix the different colors, just to get a little bit of everything, a little bit of that. Get it to look as colorful as possible. Because even if you're modeling something that's city and it's not going to obviously have huge plots of green, still want it to feel like it's not entirely monochromatic. So here too, I think we'll just leave this open. I think cars could park behind here and so forth. I don't want to get too into complex detailing with that scene. This, let's just see if we've got... Finding cars, geez. If somebody wanted to create an asset pack of the 70s and 80s cars, I would be so grateful, because there's just such a dearth of them. Maybe we could put a truck trailer here, though. Let's look for 50 or 40-foot trailers. 40-foot containers. 40-foot a lot of containers. Trailer 40-foot. That's a container. That's an empty one. Maybe I have to go with a different size. Let's just search trailer and see what we can put back there. Because a couple of trailers, and we're going to leave it at that. Americans. Nope, that's not going to be appearing at the news. Honestly, I'm not sure what it would. Probably just empty. It's just a little too long. Again. I mean, yeah, you could overhang the fascia, but it looks a bit odd. We'll just park this alongside here. I don't think we're going to find a trailer that's going to fit next to the loading dock. So we'll just pretend like it was parked and then move. But given that we are at 9 o'clock and we do want to get our playtime in, I'm going to call that sufficient. I'm hoping we get into this. Let's just do ground textures for this area here. We're not going to worry about the bowl. I'm not even sure if that's going to have much in the way of shrubs. So again, going with this kind of dark green base, and then we'll build up different gravels and textures around it. The park's going to be very well manicured and so forth, but I want to... This is going to be a super detailing thing. We'll get into that in a bit. So I forgot to read the comments earlier when I was asking you guys what you thought of the Susquehanna New York episode. So would love to know your thoughts on what you thought of the last full episode of what makes this layout great. Still trying to figure out what's going to be next as far as the next what makes this layout great. I've got a couple of ideas. But we'll come up with something that I think we're trying to keep it varied, so it's likely going to be some diesel route of some description. Oh, we're going to have to get it a little bit out, because when certain textures collide, they do some weird things. I actually kind of like how that looks, though. Let's have lighter green. I need to grab that. DBR9 seasonal. There we are, mix 19, okay. Yeah, I don't like how it, because occasionally you get these weird patches of things, but, there we go, good enough. And then here too, we'll need to, yeah. That looks pretty well worn. We're gonna get go back to that crushed stone and add that along the edge here. We might grow that in a bit more with weeds and the like, but that crushed stone actually looks pretty rough. It doesn't look like it's perfectly ballasted, so I think that'll be good. Fill in this gap here. We're going to lower this road down so it gets down, we're going to raise the land, which means we're going to fix the road heights where they are so that they don't adjust. Just leave those where they are at, and then we are raising the land around so that we don't have this lip that's apparent when going from one to the other. We are having a little bit of interesting performance. Oh, that looks okay. Still see the lip a bit, but I think that'll work fine. Let's put some more gravel, because that's going to be what we have along here. And then mixing that up a little bit with some crushed stone and some gravel too, and filling that here as well for this area. There. That I like. With maybe just a touch of green in the corner. And let's put a tree there, because then it gives this illusion that the layout continues, that there's maybe forest or something that way. Just even one single tree. Okay, set up downtown area for an observation. Coal cart, the coal dealer, box cart, the beer distributor, box cart, the store, 2 box carts, paper. Okay, let me copy that so that that doesn't get lost in the notes. We will be switching gears shortly, but I just want to remember that. Okay. Park we're going to leave untouched for the time being. This bowl we're just going to do a little bit of grass variation with the mixed, because I want that to be a little lighter. And also, actually, I like the look of that mixed with rock, so we're probably going to experiment with that. Is that... Oh, yeah, I like how that looks. Good enough for now. We might get into some more detailing with that off screen, but for now, I'm happy with this. So, in taking stock of what we've done today, this is done except for these two green areas where I want to go to town a little bit with the super detailing. Let's just put some grass here as well, because that would be nice to add just a little bit of grass line. It's tricky. Some of these older JVC ones have these weird transparency issues, so they don't quite look right from all angles. I need to get the RMM ones. Except that is way too bright for what I'm going for here, so let's add some of the weeds. So some of this I think should be okay. And then just shorten it a bit. I don't want it to be too overgrown next to town, but it just adds a little bit of variety. So yeah, good enough for now. Good enough to play with. That's what we're going for at this stage. So we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have some switching. So let us get our motive power and get going. So we have... Oh, and we need to stage things as recommended. So we are going down the laundry list, which is... So, gonna want to get the equipment in place. So if we look at the list of what Rudy has said, we'll need a coal car at the coal dealer. So let's search for, we're thinking 70, so a 100-ton hopper. But first we're gonna save this overwrite route and session. So if we look at 100, maybe not 100, and we're gonna want an NS 100-ton hopper. What's the build date on that? Doesn't seem to have one listed. And yes, we could do, or there we go, EL. Yeah, there we go, that works. If EL would definitely be fitting it there. Like your Franklin hopper, that could be fun. So that's going to be an empty. Sure, just for the sake of tying in with what makes this layout great, we're going to have a loaded LAFC hopper. Not that this is probably realistic, because those tended to run in sets, but we'll put that one there for the sake of it. Okay, so we've got our hopper ready to go. We need a boxcar at the beer distributor. Okay, we'll probably put something 50-foot there. Boxcar high cube, sure, why not? Although a lot of these are some funky ones. We could do a rail box. Sure. We'll do a No, CSX wasn't a thing back then. And and it's a good thing I didn't do NS, because we're doing 79. So, right. I don't know if this is a good one, but for the sake of just getting on with it, there we are. that's our beer distributor. We've got a boxcar at the feed store. We'll do an R box for that one. Two boxcars at the newspaper. And sure, we'll do a Milwaukee Road box and a not that one. What else do we got? CRE 50 footer. Seems maybe a bit much. We'll just do an R box there too. Okay, so we've got two box cars there. Let's put a box car on here. And then let's just search 50 and see if it comes up with any. Oh yeah, we're gonna need a 50-foot. We'll put some ACF. Yeah, so there's this is for the bakery, so we've got a covered hopper there, and we'll actually put another covered hopper in our yard train. So Rudy mentioned that typically the switch jobs are 5 cars in, 5 cars out, so we're going to try to, I think we'll end up actually with a bit more of that, but maybe we'll say the box car has to remain. Nah, they'd be probably delivering product. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars. Maybe the one at the feed mill doesn't get moved. That's the monkey wrench we'll throw in. Feed car has to stay where it is at. And we'll put another R box. Clearly, I need to diversify my modern roster a bit, but this is just to make sure that we get to have some switching fun. So we've got our unit. We do need, we'll throw in another box car or two. Heck, this is a crime. We're talking Conrail and I haven't put a single Conrail box car. Let's see if we have any Conrail 50 foots. How clumsy of me to be a CRLE. Okay, let's just see if we can shop for a quick Conrail 50 foot off the download station. Oh, there's some covered hoppers. There's some older boxcar skins. Not really a fan of those. Tricky to find quality assets at times. Saratoga, North Creek, that'd be very modern. We'll just have to make do with what we've got. Sorry to the let's search Conrail as a full word and see if we come up with anything. Oh, there's our caboose. Do I have anything more? Oh, there's a nice Conrail box. Okay, thank goodness. We have an actual Conrail boxcar on a Conrail layout. There we go. That and let's put another one there just to make that right. Okay. Now, I know that somebody's got to have Conrail cabooses for easy download and use, because we want something that's nice. Ooh, transfer caboose could be fun, but there don't seem to be any newer ones. They all seem to be older. Well, newer not as in modern era, but just more like newer as in up to modern train Z standards where it actually looks sharp. So, water break while I see if I can find another one quickly. There we go. That's what I want. And sure enough, Jointed Rail coming through for me in a pinch when I go to their website and see that, yes, there is in fact exactly what I need. And so I'm going to download that. A nice N7E caboose, which is already downloaded. And now I'm dragging it into the content manager. And then I can install that in just a moment. Hope you guys are enjoying this. We're just about to get to play with the trains for tonight, and we're going to have some fun switching out these industries in Linglestown. And let's see. 7E. There it is. And let's see. We'll make it a little challenging on ourselves. So we're going to put the caboose here just to have a little bit of work to do. So there's our nice modern caboose. So yes, even though it feels like, oh, isn't this all sort of contained in yard limits? No, this is going out on the main and going off the main. So, and I think whenever you throw a caboose into the mix, as we discussed with the Commonwealth Railway, that's that extra flavor when it comes. So, let's see. Keep in mind you can only fit 5 cars in a caboose out of the yard. Yep, but you have to move the one at the beer distributor close to mine. Respot the one at the feed mill. Yep, that sounds like a good ops for me. So we've got 5 cars. We're switching out the coal. We're gonna switch these 2 cars for the bakery. The Conrail box is going to go newsprint, and the art box is going to go beer distributor. Let's see if I remember that. Let's see. We've got everything staged. Let's play with some trains after we save. Because saving is a good thing. Going to turn down the music a wee bit so you guys can properly hear the sounds of the trains. So, here we are. Obviously, we're working with default switch stands that are not the final product, but they'll work for now. Let's get our train, and then we'll grab our caboose and head on out. Or actually, that's going to be awkward, isn't it? Oh, we can make that work. And let's throw some lights on. That seems fitting. So this is the playtime, where we get to drive through what we've done and see what we think of it scenically, and just see how it works, if it works as intended. This is going to be an interesting yard to switch out, I can tell already, because just having to go from where you stage your power to where the cars are is climbing in and of itself. And just make sure all our switches are thrown ahead, because we know from past live streams that I am inclined to forget to throw switches, but not tonight. If there are 2 things that are not happening tonight, we are not forgetting to throw switches, and we are not going to derail. This I can say with full confidence. Curious what Conrail memories you guys might have. If you have memories of Conrail or NS and CSX using Conrail power, throw them in the comments. I know that so Meadville, Pennsylvania was an Erie-Lackawanna town that then obviously became a Conrail town. Conrail, actually, Erie-Lackawanna had car shops there that Conrail used for a number of years. Now, those were shut down by the time I was around / alive. But you could still see Conrail power switching, sitting in the yard. My dad actually filmed a Conrail Jeep switching the Dad's dog food plant in town, which was kind of nifty to see. Because there's not a lot of photos of anything that's not the WNYP switching the Dad's dog food plant, which used to be the Bessemer Lake Erie. I know I'm getting off onto a tangent thing. Point is, but what I do more clearly remember is about the time I was getting into DSLR photography, Norfolk Southern was running through coal trains on the Western New York and Pennsylvania Railroad. And at that time, this is around 2010, 2011, you still saw Conrail units. And I'm glad I got photos of them because obviously that's not a thing you could do anymore unless you happen to look out on seeing the Conrail Heritage Unit. So I'm realizing that I made life difficult for myself because now I'm going to have to climb all the way back over to grab that caboose. But that's kind of the fun of the operational challenge. It's not Conrail till it's in the dirt. Yeah, I suppose there's some truth to that. At least certainly this era of Conrail. I mean, arguably this is too nice and shiny. But fits the era, fits the look, we're going with it. John, I live in North Carolina, and I remember seeing patch Conrail power on NS as a kid. Yep. Man, so many cool units. The SD60Is, of course, the SD80 Max. Looking forward to someday down the road when we do a Conrail mainline route and we get to explore some of the mainline Conrail power. I've got one in mind that I want to build as a project for what makes this layout great. I think we're going to be able to fit this here, so we'll assume that we can. But I have to say, I like... this is a good yard to work. I think there's a lot that you could do even just as a yard crew. I stopped that train in time. It is not going to derail. It is not, because I told it that it is not allowed to derail. Perfect. Hi, Nick. I worked for the guy in Conway who started with the EL in Youngstown as a brakeman. He retired several years ago and sadly just passed away last month. Well, sorry to hear about that, but yeah, there's still some EL guys around, so it's worth making those friends and hearing those stories while one can. Donald, hey Nick, hey, here's a couple ideas on layouts to do. The 4x8 Virginian layout and Alan McClelland Afton Division. I'm not familiar with the Afton Division. Here's the deal on the Virginian. I want to do it. I absolutely want to do it. But there is basically no Virginian power in this sim. To me, to do the Virginian layout, I need a train master. And not the type that sits in the yard office like you see here. I need the FM Fairbanks Morse train master. That to me is, if somebody makes an FM baby train master, I will do the Virginian. But without it, you don't really have any fitting motive power. The electrics are all too big, and that isn't one of the electric routes anyway. So, yes, I am totally willing to do the Virginian, but I need motive power to make that happen. And right now, there's just not anything available in the sim that quite fits it. And yeah, you could change, like, there's a guy who did it in Penn Central, but I would like to do it in Virginian. John, not related to Conrail, but also have fond memories of seeing Jeeps and GP50s as a child as well. Agreed. Lots of cool motive power that now one has to go to a museum. Man, it is so weird. I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but to see a locomotive that you could easily see on the main line now be in a museum. What comes to mind for me is you have the Lake Shore Railway Museum in Northeast PA that preserves GE locomotives. You saw they just got an GE AC6000, which they're still on the main line with CSX. You have, but in particular, when I in person saw that they had one of the Norfolk Southern, I want to say it was a B39. Somebody could correct me on that if I'm wrong, but they have an NS unit that was built in like 1989, which is 2 years older than I am. Weird to see that in a museum. Okay, we've got our train assembled. We are going to do some switching. And now we can kind of take the moment to appreciate, or just sort of see, like, what does the train look like as it's going through this wooded area. We'll put up some more bushes and stuff like that when we get to super detailing this. But I like how it just adds that little bit of separation between what is essentially the main line and the yard lead. And now we're going to get set up for possibly my favorite scene so far of this whole build is this. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to go up here and look down at the train for a change of pace. But that's what I wanted, and I'm really happy with how that looks. And the switches appear to be set the same way, or the correct way, so that's a good thing. Because we want to make sure we are going on the main. Yeah, close enough. Okay, so, now the question becomes, do we leave the caboose on the main, or do we have to put it somewhere? Let's pretend we have to get the caboose off the main, in which case we're going to stick it on the track, where we pull the bakery cars out from. Now, this is going to be... So we're actually going to need to use this runaround a bit. Wow, this gets complicated quick when you look at it, because you realize all of my cars are where I need them to be, except for the bakery cars that I'm going to have to run around. I'm going to have to run around the cars that are in the train, as well as the cars that I want to grab. So let's get that caboose out of the way, because that seems like an easy place to start. Do I have enough room to make that happen here? Yes, I should. Even though I went down the wrong track, and this is technically, I believe, the warehouse. Yes, the horn is a little bit weak sauce, but I have to presume that Conrail did have SW1500s with single chime horns. I know that Roanoke, near where I live, the Roanoke chapter of the NRHS has an SW1500. What? No, okay, that doesn't count. I don't even know how that derailed. But however it derailed, it doesn't count. Because... whatever. But they have an SW1500 they use for short little excursions at the Virginia Museum of Transportation, and that... Oh, that's how we derailed. Okay. And that, yeah. Single chime horn. So, not the most robust. They often replace it. Actually, when they were running Santa trains this past year, they put a Hancock air whistle on it. New Haven, I believe. So that was kind of nifty. Okay. So, alright, we've got our train reassembled. We're now going to push back and get this caboose out of the way. I mean, honestly, this seems like a job where you're going to end up tying the main up a little bit no matter what. But let's see what we can do to try to keep the switching moves nice and neat. We may not get done with all the switching today. We may just settle with, like, getting some of it out of the way. That's, the bakery's complicated. That's the reason the one car runaround is there. Oh, yes, this one car runaround. That, well, thank you for putting that one car runaround in there. We really need that. Yeah, and you're right. It's only one car. We don't have enough room for... Well, no, you have room for two. We can make two cars run around there. And again, here's our lovely ice cream stand. And yeah, that's atmosphere right there. No, CJ, that does not qualify because I didn't quite forget to throw switches. It was more like they were lined erroneously in the first place. So no, we're not counting that. But man, this is gonna be a fun switching puzzle. But you kind of like it's like multiple switching puzzles. So you have one job that's working Linglestown here, but then somebody else could be working Scotland Yard and going to the South Industrial Park, which we haven't really touched at all today. And And let's also ignore these cars that just went through the train, because I'm going to need to replace that road. Or actually, just toggle traffic off. That seems like the easier solution. So if we go to edit route, no, it's edit environment. Edit environment, and we're going to turn traffic off. I don't really like the traffic cars. And I know that you can change them in Train Z, but not a huge fan. Okay, for now, we'll just leave the caboose there. We'll need to do more with it later, but for the time being, we're going to leave it there. So let's do some strategizing here. Okay, we've got this boxcar, which is going to print. These two cars are the bakery swap outs. This car's our beer car. That hopper is that hopper. The hopper is going to be the straightforward swap and go. Maybe we'll do that first just so that I can have one less thing to think about. In which case, we are going to just clear all these cars out of the way so that the crossing's clear, and then we'll make our hopper swap. You can't blame yourself. You reported and they said the previous crew. Nice. I like that comment, Matt. Very nice. Okay. So we're going to get the hopper swapped out, because that just one less thing I got to think about. And then we could also block in the hopper siding with other cars that are swapped and taken care of. And we don't have to worry about how it affects future moves. Exactly, Matt. Yes, the previous crew was the one who threw the switches the wrong way. The previous Ghost crew, because this is the first time I'm actually running this layout. You got it. You understand my pain here that I'm going through. All these people thinking that I need to take a drug test. The very idea. Okay. So, and something that you recognize when you work layouts like this that are about switching. There's something to be said when you're modeling a prototype where the natural speed would be slow, because then it helps to extend your operations without feeling like you're deliberately dragging it out, as is the case with this move here. I like this little gully, and I could see putting water here, but I do think we're going to keep the water for something later. Hold the water, please. Now, I'm happy. I think, honestly, the best sort of discovery today, to my way of thinking, was this this trestle. Because I think that's just that's another screenshot moment. It just gives a sense of old history, and there was an old way of doing it, and now here's the new way of doing it. Again, probably replacing the trestle so that there's something that trucks can access more easily. But sometimes it's not even about, as we discussed with the scenery compression with Kootenai, it's not always about how you can logically explain a truck's movement or how it would actually be done. Sometimes what's more important is just that it looks right, or that it looks cool. It's a layout. It doesn't have to be 100% logical. There's always compromises and the like. Oh, I should put the bell on, which you can't hear that well because the volume for the game's pretty darn tootin' low. So I'm gonna open the mixer and we're gonna raise the volume a little bit, just so you can hear a bit more of the train sounds. There we go. Hopefully not too much of the train sounds. If you have trouble hearing me, please do let me know. So this EL hopper needs to get out of the way. We also need to get that boxcar out of the way, because we're going to need to do the boxcar swap. So I'm going to say let's get... Do I want to get hooked up to the train now? Sure, why not? We'll get hooked up to the train now. We're going to... It's the yellow box that's going... And so, yeah, we'll get hooked up. We'll grab the yellow box. We'll do the switcheroony. It's all good. We may not have much time beyond that. there's a lot. It's deceptive. You look and you're like, oh, this is all easy, and then you look at that bakery, you're like, ugh, that bakery, that bakery. Why did that bakery? But you know, that's the fun of it. That's the fun of giving a genuinely interesting switching puzzle. White Star. Anyone know of any good narrow gauge items for TRS 19 and like engine and rolling stock? Kind of depends on what you're looking for, but I'll tell you what. Trains Forge has some great Colorado narrow gauge stock. They have some White Pass and Yukon diesels, so I would encourage you to check out trainz-forge.com. They've definitely got some good narrow gauge stuff there. I think they also have narrow gauge Climaxes, which we all know that the Climax is the best narrow gauge, or best narrow gauge, the best logging, best of the logging. I rang the bell at the crossing, C. Jane. I rang the bell. Okay. Okay, and there's the horn too. So, our wonderfully triumphant horn that says, "This is Conrail in 1979." Hope you guys are enjoying tonight's stream and enjoying seeing the evolution of this layout, the P&L secondary. And as a reminder, if you are enjoying this stream, I encourage you to drop a little change in. We have Super Chat available, so if you even have a couple bucks to spare to help support me and what I'm doing through the show and growing what we could do, I really appreciate it. So thank you guys for all your support. And now is as good a time as any for another Patreon shout out. So patreon.com/theroundhouse if you want to get early access to episodes of what makes this layout great, as well as the Roundhouse podcast. You can go there, and for $5 a month, you're getting early access to episodes of those shows. And really appreciate the support. Blackwater Railroad, thanks for joining us tonight. You're joining us as we are in the middle of some switching moves. All right, so we've got the feed mill box car, and we're just to add a little bit of interest operationally. That car has to go back where it is. Now we've flown for the crossing, as is appropriate. Now we're collecting this boxcar from the beer distributor. We're going to put this boxcar onto our train. This bright yellow boxcar has to go where... So these two boxcars will go back on the train. Bright yellow boxcar has to go to beer distributor. This one has to go back where it's at. We also have to do the swap-a-roo with the hoppers, which I might do that when we go back into that siding. Colin, are those truck sounds on the curve custom? I'm hearing a slight squeal if the truck's around that wide. I haven't changed anything with these freight cars, so it might be jointed rail cars, and so they're coming in from that, or an effects library. I'm not entirely certain where those sounds are coming from. This is a cool, even without the scenery being fully in place. I like how this looks. Definitely a lot going on, and I would it's kind of a big layout because it's in terms of its overall dimensions, but it has the feeling of a small layout because there's so much of just these tight seams and switching and so forth. I'm really happy with how this street scene turned out, and we can all appreciate Moo Moo's ice cream joint. where it gives you a front row seat to being able to watch all of this switching unfold. Okay. So, now we need to get this boxcar here. These cars are gonna need to go for the runaround. I think. Do I want to get them tucked out of the way? I almost do want to get them tucked out of the way, but we'll just swap. We'll switch the whole thing as a solid. Well, but if I don't get them tucked out of the way, I'm still gonna need to do that later. Let's have them blocking the news for now, just so that I can put them right next to the caboose. And then we'll figure that one out. Oh, golly. So much complexity with the... And since we're over here, we'll take a brief moment to appreciate what this scene looks like. And it's tricky, too. Like, I can't set those two cars out on the runaround and then just work around them. Like, they really have to be... They have to be where they are. That is so tricky. I mean, I love it. Like that, I love a good switching puzzle. But man, is this a doozy of one? This is a pretty involved one. In fact, for simplicity's sake, let's just leave the loaded beer box car on this cut. And that way, the only cars we're taking back are the one we need to set back, the one that's going in. Oh, no, wait, I got that wrong. This one's going to the news. But, whatever. This still feels like a thing to do. I'm committing to this course of action, even if it may be not the course of action to take. So that we have to switch the two rail boxes so we get the bright one to the beer distributor. I mean, just 5 cars and so many moves to work out. This is gonna be a fun layout, Rudy. I hope you're prepared to have a lot of people knocking on your door, being like, "Hey, so I saw this layout, and I want to have a go at the real thing." But that's why you're going to be able to download it once it's done, so that we can all enjoy it from the comfort of our homes, where one person gets to enjoy it in the physical world, and the rest of us enjoy it virtually. And so, yeah, we'll just get this one situated. Do I want to put it? Yeah, we'll just get it spotted where it needs to go. And while we're getting it spotted, we can also do the hopper swap, which totally needs to be a dance. It feels like a TikTok dance. Do the hopper swap. Dun 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 dun. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the Commonwealth Railway build. That layout is near completion. I need to get the part of the staging area complete, but it is my goal to get that released soon. Basically, I need to get this website done, and then Kootenay Lake's going to go on the website, and the Commonwealth Railway are both going to go on the website. So hopefully soon you'll actually be able to enjoy those in Trainsy. And they'll be, both of those will be free downloads. We've got this hopper temporarily spotted here so that we can get the LEFC hopper at the trestle for unload. So, what kind of, for those of you watching along, what kind of operations do you enjoy? Are you into switching? Do you like point to point, freight, passenger? Uh, do let me know, because I'm sort of curious to know what types of layouts speak to you. Um, we've done with the first one, it was kind of a little bit of both. The Commonwealth was very much a full mainline deal. CJ, no, there's not a Roundhouse Podcast TikTok account. Arguably there should be, but my goodness, there's so many online trends to keep up with. I don't know that I can add TikTok to my list of things that I feel like I need to keep track of. Hostler Productions, do some flying switches. Well, I know that would make some people really happy. Flying switches in this sim don't work though, because as soon as you uncouple a car, the handbrakes pretty much automatically apply, so it doesn't lend itself to flying switches. There is a route that's going to involve gravity switching, but not really flying switches. And even though that might still be legal in this era of Conrail, I don't know that it's the thing to do with all these crossings and whatnot. Okay, so we've got the hopper spotted, the empty. Now we just need to or the full box car for the beer distributor, and we're gonna pick up this EL hopper, and we will then move the other box car into place. And then we gotta figure out the bakery. Oh, the bakery. And honestly, I don't know if we'll get to the bakery, because we're coming up on 10. So we might just have to call it at that. Oops, I realized I parked that boxcar over the crossing. Oh, well. Yeah, I think we're probably gonna have to get that spot in, just leave it at that. If I were to plot the rest of the moves, though, I think I'd still have another hour's worth of switching. Squiggy, you like point-to-point with local freight. I hear you. Honestly, Susquehanna in New York really fits that bill nicely. I like routes with a sense of I've started here and I've gone there. Although it's interesting because actually the next live build we do after this is going to be a single location. But I have my reasons. I'm excited about what we get to experiment with that one. RW Spade, and I prefer switching ops. Well, then you've come to the right place. And John, I like a mix of continuous running. Switching, I also enjoy both freight and passenger. Yeah, I definitely like having my passenger in the mix. I mean, if you make the freight compelling enough, something like this, I can dig it, but I like having my passenger. We're going to switch a bit more. So we're going to pick up that. We're going to pick up this box, respot it. And then we'll have finished all the searching down here. As for because we've got the news where we're picking up the 2 cars and dropping the 1. Here's a question for you, Rudy. So in this situation where you've got a 5-car train and your caboose is on the wrong end, how do you have your crews get back to staging with the caboose on the right end? Is it just a matter of, do you have to run around the whole train just using this runaround, or do they get to go down to the industrial park? Because I'm curious as to how you get the train back to the yard, or is it just one big shove? Interested to know how that works, because I mean, I'm inclined to just say the whole thing is a shove move, which is not my preference, but when I'm looking at the options, they're not plentiful. Lol, you're definitely switching in this the hard way. I probably am, but keep in mind, you've been switching this layout for how many years? You know your way around this. I am live streaming this, so I am having to talk about doing this while doing this, which makes it that much more complicated. You can use either runaround, but I typically try to keep the caboose on the high end. And, well, if you're going to allow me to use the other runaround, then that is what I will do. Although, admittedly, again, we probably won't get to that part of the show tonight. We'll just get things wrapped up here where we'll get this boxcar spotted, grab the rest of the cars. I really want to do that bakery switch, though. It's like, ugh. But that's going to be a couple of runarounds. So much. Maybe we'll just grab the cars out of the bakery and leave it in a messy state and call it a day. That might be the way to do it. So we'll spot that there. But man, I mean, you want to talk... What's great about this, talk about what makes this layout great, I think it's really nice to have something that allows for multiple people to switch at the same time. So you could have multiple people in their own world doing their own thing. There's a little bit of interaction in terms of if somebody's going to be coming from the south side of the layout and going back to Scotland Yard, and you need to work out clearances for this part of the main. But I think it's so nice. But that said, if you're running solo, as we are tonight, you don't feel like... This is another layout where I don't feel like I'm alone. I feel like this is the only train in the area, so it works as a single-player experience. And I think that unless you live in an area where you're guaranteed to constantly be able to fill up your call board for running your layout, probably want to have a mind of how does this run as a solo venture. Matt, I would have switched the empty hopper with the other boxcars at the same site before moving the full one in its previous spot. Well, yes, hindsight is 2020. Let's just say I meant to do it that way so we could appreciate how lovely this scene looks, especially with the park and the gazebo. Is who doesn't love a gazebo? And you can't go by the moo cow sign too much either, so there's that. All reasons to prolong our switching unnecessarily, you could say. Okay. We've got these bakery moves. Sounds like a Pete Seeger song. Which I'm kind of inclined to do now. Although I'm also kind of scared too, because I don't know how much room I'm going to have to actually work that track. But these two cars are set to go, so I'm kind of... I want to get them out of the way. I think I'll probably put these two cars back on the industrial spur. Or back on the south spur. That leaves me with just these two, which I could run around. And then I can still probably fit all my switching with all that going on. So much stuff. I just want to say I did a runaround. I think that's the way I'm looking at it. I want to say I did one successful runaround. Yes, it's been 45 minutes and you spotted 2 of your 5 cars. The layout is deceptively tricky. This is really true. And this is just one of the 3 areas that can be switched. It's pretty bonkers. Another screenshot moment. So yeah, we are... Oh, I just realized I said that I was going to put those 2 cars on the siding, and I'm not doing that yet. So, don't want to block the crossing. And blocking the crossings, is that's another interesting operational element, adds difficulty, is if you've got crossings, keeping your cars free of them. That can also make your switching moves that much more complex. So yeah, this is a total turnaround from last week where it was like, oh, we're just switching some cuts of cement and it's no big deal. And here we are, it's like, I don't know which way is up anymore. But I hope that you guys are having fun watching me as I inefficiently switch this part of Linglestown. But yeah, man, I think this is such an interesting track plan and way to do Conrail as something in between doing mainline Conrail, but also just single industry Conrail or single switching area. Superbird, all agree on the ability for solo running concept elevator if you could semi-automate your other trains running on the layout and have to work the local switching between them adds complexity. Yes, very true. I mean, that's one of the benefits of DCC. Although even DC, if you have isolated blocks for your main, and heck, if you're skilled enough, you could probably automate your stuff so that you've got it set like on a timer, or even in this day and age of Arduinos, that your train randomly starts up at some point, and then you've got to clear the main. A lot of different ways that you could play that. Okay. So we are going to run around these cars because I want to say that I accomplished that. Because let's see, we've got to run around these cars to get them spotted. The news cars aren't going to be that hard. That's, I mean, because there's the one box car there. The other two are just pickups. So the news cars are actually a straightforward move. It's really just these bakery cars, because I've got to take them down to here, run around them, then swap them out for the others, bring those guys back, run around them to get them on the right side of the train. All in all, a lot going on. That is for dang sure. There's a lot to be had with this as a switching puzzle. So I give you a lot of credit, Rudy and Carolyn, for making this what it is. I don't think, even when I was laying the track, I don't think I had a full appreciation for what I was getting into with this operationally, or scenically. I'm really happy with how this is turning out. In that it's this nice balance between town and industry and scenery, greenery. So yes, this runaround is a lifesaver. Because honestly, then you'd have to go all the way down to this south side and use that big runaround, and my goodness, that just seems like so much. I'm fine with doing that for the end where it's like, hey, the train's all made up and set to go, but... And already there, now I'm realizing, hey, I gotta make sure I've got the caboose next to the locomotive, so when I run around the train, it's on the back. So much going on with this. So much. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it... Once we've got the bakery switched out, I think we're going to call it a night, because otherwise I'm running to 11, and you guys have been sticking with me the entire time, and I appreciate that. So I think that'll be a good pausing point, maybe stopping point. Honestly, we'll see. I mean, I could possibly resume this after we do next week, but I'm probably more inclined to do the south end, since that's what we're going to focus on scenically. Get our cars. And for the first time tonight, we're actually leading cars nose first. For whatever that's worth. Man, that's like yeah. Kudos to Carolyn for the idea of the ice cream stand on that. I think that works really nicely. I think that fits the scene well. Again, Moomoo's ice cream joint. It's just so cute. It's so cute. Model railroading often needs one. That side is cute. In fact, lined for the... You know what I'm realizing I might do? Again, it's like, oh, after the fact of realizing this. Bethany loves the Moo sign. I love the Moo sign too, Bethany. And I also love you because you are my wife. So, we're gonna stick the... Oh, I didn't grab the caboose. Or is that a bad thing? How do I want to do this? For timing... Nope, I want to grab the caboose because we're going to put the caboose next to the two loads that are going to go. So, we've grabbed the caboose, now we're going to cross. So much switching pain. I mean, it's a good pain, but it is so twisty, tangly, wangly. And yes, that is the technical term for this type of switching, is switchy, tangly, wangly. And I way overshot that because I had to change screens for a moment. So we will now go back to the shove. We're truth to be told, could have put the caboose on that too, but yeah, doesn't matter. We'll probably grab those cars last thing before we head out, so it's all good. But by putting the caboose on, I feel like this is the first right switching move I've made tonight, which is putting the caboose on these cars, since they're going anyway, saves us. So all of those will get yanked, although right now we're just setting them out of the way, but all of those cars would get yanked. And then the print box car goes in there. So we'll leave that for the time being. We'll come back eventually. But we are going to make this bakery switch to say we made the bakery switch. We are going to say we made the bakery switch. And that way we've got 4 of the 5 cars that we need aligned for where they need to go. Yeah, whew. This is involved. This is just so involved. And it's not that hard to build. Like, this would not even... So here's something for you guys to consider. Even if you built nothing else of this layout, like, you could just take this scene and it in and of itself with a nice... So making this scene with, like, a fiddle yard could be a layout in and of itself. I think that's something to keep in mind when you look at track plans. It's very easy to look at a big track plan and say, well, I'm never going to have the room for that. But is there something you can take out of that bigger track plan and apply that works as a standalone switching layout? And here, with this, yes, big time. This, I think, honestly, all 3 of these scenes that we're looking at here work as their own switching layouts. The downtown scene is 4x6, could easily operate with a fiddle yard. Right, and the other thing to consider is it's a 4x6, but almost a third of that 4 feet is scenery. You could turn it into a 3 or a 2.5x6. And again, this is HO. So again, if you did it in N scale, just this scene alone becomes more like a 2x3. Simply to say that there's a lot of possibility. Oh, am I going to have enough room for 4 cars? Oh, good. But it is... am I going to have enough room for 4 cars? I don't know if I'm going to have enough room for 4 cars. I think I'm going to cheat and say yes, but... no, I'm too much of a nice guy. I'm going to cheat and fast forward this part. But, I need to move a little bit forward. Still need to clear that switch a little bit more. Yay for the fast forward button. Okay. This isn't cheating. This is just getting the sim to recognize that I've cleared the switch. You could just take switches and set the trigger radius for a lot smaller than it's initially set to do, and that makes life a whole heck of a lot easier when it comes to switching. So now when we go back to that switch, we can see that we have in fact cleared it. And so now we're going to move this car out of the way. And we're going to move back up. And we're going to move the hopper. And then we can finally deliver the last 2 cars we need to deliver. Lol, you have a lot more space here than I do on my layout. Should be just enough for a car and a locomotive. Or take 4 moves to get cars back and out. Well, to be fair... on your track plan, you showed the siding as longer. So I could shorten it up. But the track plan made it look like there was more. I'll have to look at the photos you sent me again. So I might just leave it as is. We'll see. I mean, this is your layout. So, you know, if you want me to shorten that track up to challenge the rest of people downloading the route, I'm more than happy to. But man, it's already a lot of switching. Okay, got these cars out of the way. Now we're gonna finally spot our empty box car and loaded covered hopper. David Mitchell, me and my wife do rail fanning. Well, that's a great thing to, great couples activity, rail fanning. Whether you go for a nice ride on a tourist railroad or have a picnic trackside somewhere. A lot of ways to have fun together doing fanning. Not your fault, just observing. It doesn't drastically change anything scenery and wise regarding the extra length of the spur. Yeah, I mean, scenically, it's gonna kind of function the same. There we go. Now, technically, you could say, but Nick, don't you have to spot the boxcar at the platform? You're probably right. I am not up for that level of operation at this stage. We're gonna pretend that boxcar could be loaded by forklift. And it can be loaded by forklift. So that boxcar is getting loaded by forklift. So, we are at 10:15. And we've done that much. Let's maybe just say we got the satisfaction of making all our setouts. So, that's going to require... Actually, truth be told, we're not that far away from done. We are not that far away from done. Let's see if we can make it to the point of just... I might do a little bit of fast forwarding. Because all we have to do... We're going to have to run around these cars. Which we might as well do now, because that's going to be easier now than later. So we're gonna run around these cars, and then once they are where they need to be, in the consist, then it's just a matter of doing a swap at the news. Everything's where it needs to be orientation-wise, picking up the hopper, the boxcar, running around them at the end of the spur. I like that. You know, we're going to do that because... So we're compromising. Because that way you get to see the whole thing play out, but we don't have to take the entire length of time that it otherwise would. And we've got everything set to where it needs to go. We get to couple up to this. We're now liberally using the fast forward button. Sorry, purists. But I just really want to say we got this all complete and done. Horn. Or I'll get more messages about proper railway procedure, operating procedure. And then we're picking up. So that Conrail boxcar is our set out. Which actually means... how do I want to do this? Yep, like that. So we're going to put that on the other track. Just to get it out of the way. And then we're going to couple to the caboose, then to the two cars ready to go. And then we get coupled up to those. Pulling all those out, we're going to set that Conrail boxcar in there. We're pretending that we honked for that crossing. We're getting this boxcar and setting it out at the news. And now it's in the right location. So, yay for moves that actually aligned up properly. And get that spotted just right. Okay. So, what now? Actually, I'm realizing I'd meant to leave those two cars. I'd meant to leave those two cars in the siding so I could put them behind the caboose. Maybe we'll just set the caboose out later. We'll figure that out in a moment. Okay. So, we'll grab the other two cars. I think I know what we'll do. Okay, we'll leave these cars here. Grab these, and then set out these two cars. And yes, I know now we're really pushing the envelope of operating with any sense of prototypical nature. But I think in the spirit of proving here's the concept as a whole, it's worth taking the shortcuts. Oops. No, that doesn't count. We're gonna re-rail that because I don't even know why it did that there. There's no trailing switch. It just didn't like the fact that I did it too quickly. And re-rail that. And then get it all coupled up because we all saw that's what really happened. So, I'm sorry if you're watching this and you're super annoyed at me because I'm fast forwarding, but hopefully you're still getting enough of a sense of how it actually operates. And just getting a sense of how why we're doing it is just because then you see the whole thing unfold. No rip, No rift. Nothing happened there. So now we just get those 2 cars. We've got our 6-car train assembled and ready to go. We're gonna run to the end of the branch, spin around, and be good. Yardmaster Holmes would like to see you upon your return to Scotland Yard. Make sure I drink a bunch of water. Oh, you guys are relentless. Jeez. Okay, now we have our train all together, and we're gonna make sure that we are properly lined to the runaround here at the end of the branch, just so that there aren't any rude surprises. Oh, that switch stand seems to be in the wrong place. Oh, no, it's in the right place. There must be overlapping ones. It's good where it's at. We'll throw that one. Okay. Now we are going to bring it all the way down. Bring our train. This is the scene. I'm looking forward to what we're going to do with this scene here. I'm envisioning water feature in this area, because this is the one truly in-between bit that we have without scenic dividers. So that's going to lend itself really nicely. Get set up in the passing siding. Fortunately, a passing siding with plenty of room for everything we need to do, which is just running around the train. And we'll get that switch at the far end thrown. Oops, somehow that got thrown the wrong way. Could have sworn I had that set the right way, but who knows? It's that previous ghost crew that we gotta worry about. And those of you who are watching this after the fact, please do leave comments. Let me know what you think of this. There are things you'd like to see for future live streams, and make sure that you tune in to the live streams again every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And the only time we're not live streaming is either A, if there's a new episode of What Makes This Layout Great, which I try to premiere those so I can be part of the conversation with you, or for some reason I have a scheduling conflict. But I will try to be keeping as strictly as I can to the live streaming on Thursday schedule. Alrighty. David, you've been following my channel since 2007. Well, I appreciate that. That predates At the Rail Yard, so I really appreciate that loyalty. That was 2007 was when I was starting to do train simulator music videos, essentially, which you could still see those if you want. They have aged. Many of them were filmed before I was doing screen capture. So be kind in your comments if you go back and watch them. But I leave them up because they're part of... Well, that's weird, that kink in the track. I'll have to work that out next time. But yeah, I keep them up because I feel like they're still part of my journey as a filmmaker. So it's worth being like, hey, it took me a while to get to... Hey, it takes everybody time to get up to where they eventually get to quality-wise. Okay, we now have an assembled train. We have all of our switches lined for Scotland Yard, including the main, and we're just gonna pull in on... not that track, we're just gonna pull in here. I can see why there's a runaround here now. That makes perfect sense. Okay, here we go. And I'm gonna fast forward this bit going through the non-scenic area just so we can... We'll have one non-hyper sped jaunt through the up to the yard, and then we'll sign off for the night. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully you found this entertaining and useful. I try to make sure that I keep it fun, lighthearted, but also that we mix in ideas that you could apply to your own model railroading. that's why I started What Makes This Layout Great. That's why I started these live streams. I feel like even if we're doing something that may be very different to your own railroad or your own layout, there might still be things to learn along the way. And some of it is just like I'm building and then I realize, oh, this is a really nice scene with these trees. And wouldn't that be, isn't that kind of cool? I'm curious what that looks like from the streets because we haven't looked this way. Yeah. I mean, the ice cream shop isn't looking quite as hot from this angle, but we take liberties where we need to. So obviously disappearing behind the buildings, really great way to be able to hide that transition. You know, if you build up trees and buildings and so forth in terms of what the backdrop actually looks like, hiding this hole in the wall should not be that hard. Now let's see how it looks on this side. Oh, I like this. Oh, and see what we were talking about way back at the beginning of the stream? We were talking about this idea of how the curve is a scene in and of itself when you're looking straight down it. Yeah, that's the idea. Union Pacific, how long have you been live? Since 7 p.m. Eastern, so coming up on 3.5 hours. So yes, we like to, well, not burning the midnight oil. It's not quite that late here, but yes, we like to build for a couple of hours and then we like to play for an hour plus. We got into a longer run of it because of all the switching involved at Linglestown, but glad that you could join us. And here we are coming into the yard, and you can see why the yard would have its own crew, because now that this train's come in, the power's got to go around. Those cars have to be switched into different sidings depending on where they're going to, because this isn't just a staging yard, it's also designed for as part of the operations. And you can see it is just the right length for being able to have those. 6 cars is 1 car too long. Again, Rudy designed this so that it's a 5-car mix, and that would make it easier. But you could still run around, back up, and then be able to do all your switching as you need to. So that's going to conclude it, guys. We'll take one last look at what we've done today. So all the track was in place before we started streaming. But here is Scotland Yard. We have the main line going through here. We've got the yard lead on the outside, along with this extended piece here. Then we've got the wonderful village of Linglestown with all its various industries. And we got the buildings, most of these buildings were placed already, but we got the ground textures and did some detailing with trees and bushes. And here in particular, we had fun. We put the legendary Moo Moo's ice cream joint. Not just Moo Moo's. It is the legendary Moo Moo's ice cream joint. And that was probably my favorite discovery tonight, was how well this works. So next week on What Makes This, or well, not next week we're on Great Train Layouts Live. That's the show title for these live streams. Still thinking what makes this layout great. But next week we are going to be working on this scene here. There's this cement plant. There's going to be a warehouse here. We're going to experiment with different ways to make this scenery pop. We've got a transition scene that we'll be playing around with here. And then this South End Industrial Park with its industries. These buildings are pretty much fixed, but again, having fun with the detailing. Should be a fun stream. Hope you tune in. Again, that's going to be next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Again, patreon.com/theroundhouse if you've enjoyed watching the show or the Roundhouse podcast or what makes this layout great. For as little as $1 a month, you're going to support what we're doing here, and I really appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you guys have a good night. One last time, having an overview look from the P&L secondary. Thank you for tuning in and seeing what is hopefully a great train layout live. Take care.